Rob.
Are we good?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to call the select board to order. I actually have a gavel here at Florida. All right, I'm going to do a roll call vote. I'll do Aaron first. Aaron,
Here.
Mark,
Here.
Chris,
Here.
Melissa, here. Thank you guys. We have a full agenda tonight. Public comment, meeting on town manager reports, discuss and vote on review the evaluation process for town manager, including selection of direct reports to submit evaluations and individuals compile composite evaluation in accordance with section 5 of town manager's contract. We have a couple of hearings on safety amendments, discuss and vote on driveway waiver on Ash Street, economic development update from Kevin, discuss and vote on second meter pilot program. There's a vote and discuss, vote to declare surplus item fire department vehicle, vote to approve annual liquor licenses, vote on our vast select board policies we'll be going over. I will give a brief update on our conversation with Edge this week, and pretty simple. Future agenda, approved meeting minutes, and executive session. So, Chris, I don't know if there's a lot of people in the room for public comment. I can't see. If there's any public comment in the room, we'll do that first, and then we'll go to Zoom.
Just Paul.
Okay, Paul?
Hi, Carlo. How are you?
Good.
Thank you. I'm going to try to be quick.
Just your name and address.
I'm Paul Silva, 12 Autumn Lane, Reading, Mass. I'm here to, promote this concept and advocate for the approval tonight of the 400-meter pilot program for Reading for the second meters. I think it's important for me to explain the reasons why I think we should do it, and there really are two. One is we want to get rid of the disparity or the inequity that we now have in the current system, where people who water their lawn are paying for sewer costs they don't get. And I think everybody gets that one. And I also, I think a primary reason, one of my primary reasons, is that the use of more water will reduce the overall water rate. So those two things are absolutely connected. They're not separate, they are connected. So I think we need to do a bunch of things regarding second meters and water restrictions. I wanted to determine what would our water rate be if we acted like Stoneham. 44% of the households in Stoneham have second meters. We have none. We have water restrictions. They have none. They use 28% more water than we do, with a 10% smaller population. Yet our rate is 65% higher than their rate. What are they doing that we're not doing? And I think the answer is this, is those restrictions that we have, that they don't have, they use a lot more outside water. There's no question about it. They use, on a per capita basis, they use 38% more. And they buy that water just like we do from the MWRA at $3.83. And they sell it in Stoneham anyway at $6.95. We'd be selling it at a higher rate. Hopefully not $12, but certainly a higher rate. Enough where there's a substantial, I call it a profit. What is Stoneham and every of those other towns that don't have those restrictions? They take that profit and they plow it back to lower the rate for everybody. So we talk about there might be a minor shift on the sewer rate, but everybody gets a benefit of a lower water rate. So here's what I did, and I'm going to leave the calculations on that table before I'm done. I just took the Stoneham experience and I put it on top of Reading. What would happen if our water rate was 38% higher than it is, and we had no restrictions? Our water rate would go from, it's approximately $11.50 now, ignoring the tiering, down to $9.36. Doesn't sound like much, it's $2.14. On an annual basis, that number is $1.5 million that we're spending for no reason. Over the last 6 years, it's $9 million, And I think we should have removed those restrictions back in 2007 when we moved to the MWRA. And that number's north of 20 million. And we really got nothing for it. So why would I say we got nothing for it? The Quabbin Reservoir is at its capacity, or near the capacity. It's at or above its target level. And most importantly is this. The MWRA puts out a demand management report every year where they explain their issues or their, not their concerns, a report on the water supply. Just this last August, in their report, they said for them to apply mandatory water restrictions to all the communities like us, we would have to experience a drought, the severity of which has not occurred since the mid-1960s. That's how comfortable they are with their management of the water supply. So they don't have any mandatory restrictions, we still do. What's it costing us? It's costing 1.5 million a year. Like I said, 9 million over 6 years. Then I asked myself, why do we do this? Why? And why have we done it for so long? And I believe it's because the town, I think represented through this board, and prior boards, have adopted this water conservation philosophy that really has no relevance to us. And then I asked myself, what are the tenets of that philosophy? All I had to do was go back to the October 29th board when those tenets of that philosophy were listed one by one by one by one. And it was frustrating for me that you can't respond in that forum. The public comments were over, the board was having their deliberations, no public comment. So what I did is I took the opportunity to respond to each and every one of those. That is also going to be in a handout that I'm going to leave at that table when I'm done. So where does that leave us? What do I think we need to do? Page here.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, what do you want to do in terms of timing this evening?
Yeah, Paul, you've gone way over, I know you.
I'll be done in 30 seconds. This is what we have to do. We have to.
Hold on, Paul, can everyone, I got a message, can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Karen, can you speak to make sure you're okay?
I can hear you.
Can everyone hear Karen okay in the room?
It's a little garbled, but we can hear you.
Okay, so what do we have to do? Number one, pass that pilot program tonight. But it is only a start. If we want to save the residents 1.5 million, we have to do all the rest of it. That is, the minute we pass that, start working to allow second meters for everybody. Everybody wants to go through the process that Chris worked so hard to develop. They should be able to have it and they should do it, and the town should make it available. We should modify it, open it to all residents and eliminate the concept of a pilot program. Make it a permanent part of our water policy. It shouldn't be a pilot program. And lastly, eliminate the water restriction. If we do all of those things, I'm pretty comfortable. If we believe our residents act like the Stoneham residents, that our water rate will drop significantly for not just people who irrigate their lawns, but for everybody in the town of Reading by about $2.14, which is what I calculated. And like I said, I'll leave the calculations on the back table. And with that, I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Anyone else in the room, Chris?
Anyone else? Nope.
All right, we have Nancy Doctor, I believe, on Zoom. Nancy, you're up.
Thank you, Nancy Doctor, Pearl Street. I just wanted to make two quick comments about your general operating procedures when you review it. One is on page 3. It's under public comment 1.2.5. The whole document was actually very gender neutral until that section, and it's her/him, I believe, as opposed to just putting they, to keep consistent with the fact that you didn't identify gender throughout the rest of the pages. The other one is on page 14, and it's under 1.5.2, item number 5, and it's referring to the town manager's office emailing shares no later than 5 p.m. the day of each scheduled VAST appointment or meeting, and I don't think that that's fair to chairs. It's basically giving the chair potentially no time to attend these appointments. I'm wondering, is there a reason you want to encourage chairs to attend? Can't they be notified the same time that the interviewers are being notified for their scheduled appointments? It's like sending you guys an email saying at 5 o'clock, can you make a meeting at 6:30? I don't think that's appropriate. I think you need to give the chairs more leeway. It says no later than 5 p.m., but if they get an email at 5 o'clock, I think that's a disadvantage, and I'd like to see you give the chairs certainly more advance notice, or at least the same amount of notice as the interviews. Thank you. That's my 2 comments.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
I see Angela next on Zoom. Angela, you're up. You there? Angela, 5 more seconds and we're gonna move on. All right, if she comes back while we're doing liaison reports, not to interrupt any of us, but I'll let her chime in before we start the actual meeting. So we'll start with the room first. Chris, liaison reports?
Thanks, Carlo. The Killam School Building Committee met, not last week, the prior week, and went over the long-awaited different energy options. We were presented with full geothermal, half geothermal, going with a bunch of other various options, but the end result, no votes were taken, but a straw poll from the room heavily favored the full geothermal option for Killam, based off the return that we would get from the state for all the various grants, or it could be federal, the money from that. So the vote on that with some other more refined numbers will be at the next Killam school meeting. Carlo, me, and Mark, Melissa, and me attended the senior Thanksgiving dinner put on by Brad Jones, Rich Haggerty, and Jason Lewis. Once again, it was a great event that gets everyone up and moving, and they had over 200 Reading seniors there, so it was good to see such a wonderful event put on. And thank you also as well to Linda Jones as well. She heavily participates in the whole thing. I attended the tree lighting the other day. Once again, just another great event. The DPW managed to get everything up. I think there's more lights, I might be wrong, but it seems like there's more out there than last year. But it was once again a really good event, and just hearing all the kids scream for Santa and all that stuff is just, kind of what it's all about. And then lastly, on Thursday is Shop the Block. So hopefully everyone has money left to spend in Reading on Thursday. You can find info online for that. Matt might even have some stuff afterwards, but that's on Thursday at 5, I think it starts. Yep. And that's all I got. Thanks, Carla.
Okay, Mark?
Excuse me, I wasn't being unmuted, so I am here and I wasn't able to be unmuted before, so if I can still speak at some point.
Yeah, Angela, why don't we do liaison reports and I'll let you speak after that.
Thank you.
Mark, please?
Okay, I'll pick it up. Thanks. So Chris already covered some of the meetings and things we were at. 2 upcoming things, and Matt hopefully is going to reinforce these also. The community menorah lighting is this Sunday at 5 p.m. on the Common. All are invited. Sorry, hit it twice. That's fine.
Yeah.
That has been a great event. That should be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
The second is that the Reading Center for Active Living is having a public forum on Tuesday the 17th. Sorry, Matt.
This is what happens when you go last.
Yeah, so there are actually 2 activities. One is a tour of the current Pleasant Street Center at 6 p.m., and this will be held at the Pleasant Street Center. And then at 7 o'clock is more of a public forum, and it's going to be a discussion on sites and some of the progress that's been made to date on those activities. And those are my updates.
Thanks. Melissa, please?
Chris covered mine, I didn't really have much these last couple of weeks. I did briefly attend the senior Thanksgiving dinner, which was awesome to see all the seniors up and enjoying themselves. And Brad Jones, Rich Haggerty, and Jason Lewis did a great job with that. And I was not able to make the tree lighting, but I'm sure as many of you have seen, if you drove through the center of town and after dark, the lights look incredible. So thank you to DPW and town staff that had anything to do with that. That's all I got.
All right, Karen, please.
Okay, I'm unmuted, thank you. I'd like to wish everyone, I hope everyone have a great Thanksgiving holiday. I am also looking forward to the menorah lighting on Sunday. That is an expanded event, and I understand that we have some indoor options as well if the weather decides not to cooperate, but fingers crossed, they'll be a little better than last year. I'm looking forward to meeting with the Trails Committee this week. I understand a significant donation is coming in, and we'll get some more details on that. And I am also looking forward to 2 upcoming meetings, one for the community meetings, one both for Pelham, and as Mark mentioned, that opportunity to get engaged with the Center for Active Living. So that's it. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, a little bit quiet for me as well. We do have a bylaw committee opening, so we're trying to get that interview scheduled this month. And I was able to walk down to the tree lighting much earlier when it was daylight, and just took a look around the whole block and saw the trolley and the tractor, and again, another good event. And again, kudos to town staff and DPW for another great event. So I think that's it. Matt, I'll defer to Angela first. I'll have Matt go last. Angela, you ready?
Thank you very much. So I want to speak for a few moment on the outside water meters. And what I hope to hear tonight is a discussion on how outside meters, if they are instituted or not, will affect all residents with water and sewer charges, and how payments and costs are determined. Not everyone will be able to install an outside meter, and people still will use water for watering a garden or shrubbery. I think that there needs to be a real discussion on how our rates are related to the buy-in and when we joined MWRA. So people who listened to the previous speaker comparing Stoneham to Reading, there are different rates and different things for towns that joined at different times. So it's not an apples to apples comparison or a Stoneham to Reading comparison. And I did have a at-length discussion with the assistant town manager about this, who really clarified some things for me. But it's not as easy as saying, well, Stoneham does it, other towns do it, we should do it. I think we need to do what is best for our town. I think we need to take into consideration all the residents who may use it, may not be able to take advantage of the program. And I want to know how our costs for all of the residents will be increased, if they will, to make up for the decrease in the funding for the sewerage charges that are going forward. These are the things that need to be discussed tonight. We can't just say, if we apply ours to Stoneham, then this is what we get, because we're not Stoneham. We have a different, we bought into MWRA at a different time period. And so that is just a false equivalency. So I want to hear discuss how this program will affect everyone else who doesn't have a meter, and how their rates or their bills will go up. So I hope that there is an honest discussion, and I spoke to the assistant town manager, Wellman, about this at length, and it was very helpful to me, so I hope that there is some background on all of this, because to just say other towns have it, we should do it, you know, they do it, if we just overlay what we have on top of that, it will work for us. I don't believe that that's true, so that I want to hear those are the questions, I will be hoping that you answer some of those questions in your discussion later. Thank you.
Okay, Matt, after you.
Yep, thank you. So quickly, because a lot of this stuff has been covered, but I'm happy to reinforce it. The tree lighting went excellent. Chris and his team did a great job. Chris is our DPW director, as you know, is here tonight. And also the chamber, who sponsors it every year. And they were covering 2 tree lightings, one in North Reading and one in Reading at the same time. So I want to thank everybody on those teams for their help. It was a great event. I think we had more people than ever over the weekend. And the menorah lighting is this weekend. It's Sunday, the 8th at 5 o'clock. And I want to emphasize 5 o'clock because there was a little misunderstanding about when it was, but not 7, but 5. I'm looking forward to this yearly celebration. I think it's going to be great this year. We do have, if it does rain or snow weather, we do have a backup at the church, as was mentioned, and we will make an announcement about that. Shop the Block is this Thursday, the 5 o'clock, the 5th, from 5 to 9 in the downtown. So I do urge everybody to go downtown and support the Reading businesses. They count on this every year, and it's always a great event, and it's just fun to see people out shopping in downtown Reading. A lot of people were doing that during the tree lighting as well. So I was happy to see that happen as well. Eastern Gateway Open House is coming up Wednesday, December 11th at 7 p.m. at the Pleasant Street Center. We're looking for public input on the future of the important area down there at the Eastern Gateway. So I hope that everybody can attend that. I know December is a busy month with a lot of meetings, but we really are counting on some public input there. Let's see, ReCal Public Forum, Tuesday the 17th, as Mark mentioned, at the Pleasant Street Center. 6 p.m. will be a tour, 7 p.m. will be the forum, and we're going to talk about site selection and design concepts. Again, another very important project for Reading. So I urge everybody to come and attend and hear and tour the center if you haven't, so you can see what exactly we're talking about when we talk about a new calc or a new cal. One fun thing, we're collecting letters from Santa. There's a mailbox outside the recreation office downstairs in Town Hall, and I'm told that Santa will reply to every child who sends a letter and drops off a letter. So it's a fun way to celebrate the holiday season, and I urge children and parents to avail themselves of this opportunity. It's a really fun thing to have. A couple more things. My newsletter, the Town Manager Minute, I just want to emphasize is an excellent resource for the town. If you don't already get it in your email box, go to the website. You can sign up right on the town website. You'll get it every month, and everything is listed there. Most of the events we talk about tonight are there, and we encourage people that do have events, nonprofits and whatnot, to also send them to me in my office, and I'm happy to put them out in the Town Manager Minute. And tomorrow we'll start the budget hearings before the Select Board. We'll have budget hearings from 5, I think, departments tomorrow night. Again, just a brief overview what the budget's going to look like with some slides, and then offer questions to anybody on the Select Board. I think FinCom is also coming to that meeting as well. So that kicks off our budget season, which will take us all the way to April at town meeting, when we'll have a final budget presentation. So busy times, but we're looking forward to it. So, and that's my report.
Thanks. Matt, can you speak a little about, do we still have the Adopt a Family program for the holidays?
Run through which department would that be?
Yeah, how can people inquire about adopting a family? I think it's on our website somewhere.
I think the Senior Center, Elder Services runs that. Yeah, Elder Services still runs that program. There's more information on the website about that. And if you want to adopt a family for the holiday season, it's a very nice thing to do. So more information there.
All right, thanks. Jane, do you have anything to add?
Sure, I will add that I was very nicely invited to the joint Stoneham Reading Rotary Club luncheon for the pre-Thanksgiving football engagement, and they were honoring there's football captains and the cheer captains, and didn't all work out quite in our favor in Reading. I'm not going to accept blame for that because it was the first time I went. But it was a really great event. It was catered by our school department, and it was held in a parish hall here in town. And it was just fantastic to see the sportsmanship and the coaches praising each other, and the athletic directors praising each other and praising the two teams. And it was fantastic. It was a really great experience, and I am grateful to Reading Rotary for inviting me to attend. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, next on our agenda is, I think Sean is on Zoom.
Yes.
We have, I was gonna say every year, not every year, sorry. When we go through this process of renewing, reviewing, hiring, or whatever you wanna call it for a town manager, there's a lot of work that goes into it, and through part of Matt's contract is a 360 review by us and for town staff. And also tonight, we have to pick some department heads, and hopefully Sean will help us on how many. There's some that are already gonna be part of this by default that we already discussed in the past, and then we have to choose some more. So I'm gonna kick it off to Sean to help me a little bit more on this one.
Hello. So looking in your packet at Matt's contract under item section 5 or section B, item C, it mentions that you have to have the evaluation by January 8th, which I think you have a meeting on the 7th. So the 360 that Carlo was referring to, it says that you would have to select some people to assist in that. The superintendent and the library director are already encompassed there, so you have 5 more direct reports to choose, and 3 of those have to be department heads. I looked at some information from 2023, I think when we had done Fidel's, and based on an email that I had, I think you had Sharon, I think you had Joe Huggins, I think you had the police chief, the fire chief, and the assistant town manager. So it would just be a matter of choosing who those additional folks would be. It looks like you went with all department heads then. You don't have to, but according to the contract, it says you have to do at least 3. And then obviously you have to designate someone to compile, which in the past it has been me.
Thank you for that. Yes, it has. You do such a good job.
Move to nominate Sean.
Well, we're not there yet, but I guess we can do that now, sure, because we have to pick the department heads too, but anyone want to second Karen's motion?
Second.
Melissa did.
Sorry, I did. I don't know if you heard me.
Yeah, I heard it. Any discussion? Seeing none, I think, and I'll do a roll call vote. Karen?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Melissa?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
And Carlo, yes, so that's 5-0. So we just heard the list from Sean on the 5 that we did previously. Do you guys have any objection? Do you want to change it up? I think that's a good mix, but I'm open to obviously any discussion about moving things around or, moving someone off and taking someone on.
Mark has his hand up.
Oh, Mark, go ahead.
Thanks, Carlo. So I think that it would be very helpful to think about kind of sharing things around a little bit more broadly. I was thinking, so we have an assistant town manager that I think would be a good person on that group, head of elder and human services, police chief, finance director, and I was wondering if maybe the town clerk might be a good person to bring onto that group. So slight change up, but I think that's a broad swath of different activities that are going on in the community and are going on at town hall. I think it might be a good group to use.
Okay, I made some notes. Anyone else want to chime in? We'll do the room first. I'll let Karen and me go last. Chris?
I'm fine with what Mark just proposed. I was fine with the other ones as well. I mean, you know, I think that we're gonna get some real feedback from whoever we pick. But I like Mark's idea of just going a little bit different. I think I mentioned last time that Laura should do it, or something.
Yeah, it
Something
came
like
up, I'm
that.
not sure if it was this or another
Yeah.
activity, but her name
But
came up.
no, it's good to see Laura's been here forever, hopefully forever.
Not that one.
Well, she's here, by the way, Carla.
Oh, okay.
And, no, I'm good with what Mark just proposed.
Melissa, any input?
Nope, I'm good with that as well.
Sharon?
I would agree with Mark's proposal. Let's rotate these voices.
Is it gonna be this easy? We're all gonna agree with Mark? What the heck?
I can change my mind if you want.
Wait, worse things could happen. I mean,
Did you have all seven, did you say 5 names? Cause I heard Chris, Kowalski, I think you said, right, head of senior services?
Yeah.
no,
You said-
Did you mean
no,
Jenna?
Jenna.
Oh,
Head of
did you mean Jenna?
Elder
Okay,
and Human
'cause I-
Services.
Yeah, good, Elder.
Yeah,
Yeah, Chris, that's technically Chris's time, that's why I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, good point. I wrote
Okay.
down this one too.
Okay.
What is
So I have
Jenna's title?
Dr.
Community
Sorry.
Services Director.
I have
Community
Dr.
Services Director,
Belczewski.
apologies.
No problem. So Dr. Belczewski, Amy, Jenna, Jane, Laura, who else did you say?
Chief Clark, Sharon Angstrom.
Okay.
And did you say superintendent?
Already on the list, there's one of
We're
the
already on.
superintendent and
Alright,
library
we're
director.
shoo-ins.
They had reserved seats.
Got it.
And at least 3 of those additional names are department heads. 4, you have 4, so.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
And if I can add one more note, the last time we did this, I don't know if it necessarily said this part in the contract, but I think just due to the nature of it being a 360 review, I think we had it anonymous. So if you want me to make it anonymous, then I can call them like employee 1, employee 2. That way, it just keeps it like that.
Okay,
I think that makes sense.
that's.
Yep.
Fine.
Okay.
All right, Chris, did you write those names down for a motion? Do we need a motion for this?
We do have a
Draft.
motion. Yeah.
Okay,
So, hold on. What is Jenna's new last name?
Wood.
Wood.
Oh, that's easier than the last one.
Right.
So it's Jenna Wood, Sharon Angstrom. Who else?
Jane Wellman,
Jane Wellman,
David Clark.
David Clark,
Laura, Jen,
Laura Jim. All right, so move to.
and Jane, and Jane.
Yeah,
Yeah, we got that.
Okay,
Oh yeah, 3 of them are department heads then, yep, I missed that.
All right, so move to solicit feedback from Jenna Wood, Sharon Angstrom, Jane Wellman, Chief David Clark, and can't read my own writing.
Laura Gem.
Laura Jim. Sorry, Laura. Must be at least 5 direct reports, 3 of whom are department heads. That's it. So, yes.
Can I, I'll second. Can I make a friendly amendment?
sure.
So we just talked about kind of anonymizing. Should that be
Oh,
part of
yes.
this motion also? Would that be friendly?
Okay,
Yeah.
Sure.
Yep.
That way it's clear.
Accepted, thank you. Mark, you seconded?
Yes.
All right, any discussion?
Can I add one comment?
Oh, sure.
I don't know if it matters, as long as you're okay with it. I don't think I think Jen is the only one that's not a direct report. If that you're okay with that, that's fine. I'm just letting you know by the contract how it reads.
But do we have the minimum for the contract?
As long as we have
It says
3.
5 direct reports. So Laura, Clark, Chief Clark, Sharon technically, sort of, and Jane all report to Matt in some way. Jenna technically reports through Jane to Matt, as long as you're okay with that. I just wanted to make that known.
What about, does Amy report to Matt?
Yeah, also to the Board of Trustees,
But isn't that a direct, so that gives us the 5 or no?
Well, but Sharon doesn't report to that.
Sharon
Sharon
doesn't
report.
sort of right, there's a
She
little bit of a hybrid
corresponds.
situation. Jenna is a former direct report. I mean, when I was the assistant town manager, she did report to me, if that matters. But
I guess Matt is here. If Matt is fine, then I'm fine.
Cool. I just wanted to be the annoying HR guy and mention that.
that's it.
Thank you, details are
We don't
important.
need more than just, we're good with just saying we all agree that that's fine, considering it's in his contract.
Matt did, so.
Okay, alright.
Yeah, no, I'm good with that.
Okay.
If that's the pleasure of the board, so.
All right, any other discussion slash comments?
I'm looking forward to the process. I can't believe how quickly it's come up. It's like we're here already. But I think this will be great, and I am looking forward to it and moving forward with Reading, so thank you for considering.
We do need to take a vote, however.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. I'll go in the room first. Mark,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Melissa,
Yes,
Karen,
Yes,
Carlo, yes, 5-0, thank you. Let me go back to my agenda. All right, we have a couple of hearings. on
Excuse me,
safety
Carlo?
amendments.
Carl, before we move on, there's a second motion related to compiling the evaluation.
We did that. in the
We did it
beginning.
at the beginning?
We did that first.
yeah, we're gonna have Sean do it, that was after.
Sean, do it. Okay, sorry. And then the third part, thank you, the third part would be the actual form. Is that, I remember in past years, we've kind of approved the form, and the form, my opinion, it's a reasonable form, but we don't actually kind of have it here to look at. How do we wanna do that? What is the form we're gonna use?
Well, I don't think we have to vote on it, but I think the form that, it's gonna be similar to, is it, Sean, correct me if I'm wrong, is it not gonna be similar to what we've used in the past?
Yeah, I was looking into that. I was gonna just take the same form and make it into this format for each person. And then I'm assuming the goals that we're gonna be using for the evaluation portion are the ones that are in section E of the contract. Unless there's something else that I'm not aware of, but I was just gonna sort of impose those goals into the contract, into the form. And then I was gonna talk to, offline, I was gonna talk to you, Carlo, about just the dates to send out. Usually I just run it by the chair to make sure that you're okay with it.
Yeah, thank you, and Sean, can you just mention what is the drop dead date? And don't say the exact date, give us some, room when these all need to be in, especially ours.
Sure. So I think, in the past, I think we've done about a week or so as like a date, like to go by. If you're aiming for the this January 7th, deadline, I think if I have everything and I can probably compile it, by the week of the 16th, so that it's plenty of time. I can do it even earlier than that if need be. I was thinking just, offhand, I could send it out this Thursday and have it due either next Thursday or the following Monday, which is the 16th. And then if anyone's a little later, I might just chime in and say, hey, I still need this back, and I would just keep you in the loop on that.
Okay, is that reasonable, board members?
I'm good for the 16th.
Yeah, I think 16th makes sense. I do have a question though on the goals. I think there are two sets. I think that E were kind of additional goals, more specific goals, project goals, in fact. And I think that there was a part A also that we're supposed to reference, which is entry plan goals and objectives. And I'm not remembering specifically, maybe you folks remember if we did do that?
I don't think we did.
Didn't we have something and scrapped it?
In favor of just E?
I think so. I think we had a list of things, but we just scrapped it. I could be wrong though.
So my concern with just E really relates to new projects for the most part. So it's Killam School project, Recal project, CPA study committee if that moves forward, green communities, MBTA communities, management of new and existing projects, and recruiting. Those were kind of the 7 things that were here. But if we didn't have any others, I don't know what else we would do. I mean, I would have thought that we're kind of more, I'm thinking back a year or two, and 2 years and 3 years, we had some more operating kinds of goals. part of this?
There are, and I'm not sure, Mark, if those are, I haven't shared my screen or anything, but I'm just looking at one of the older reviews from Fidel. And I could look at Bob's reviews to see if it was the same, but it talks about things like environment, HR management, schedule management, laws, ethics, policies, fiscal systems. So there are like some of those operational goals. I'd have to look to see if those were like generic or if they were incorporated.
That sounds like what we would have given Fidel during his review from us at that time, not what was built into his contract. So that would have been what we would have added on to Fidel. Like I said, to come up with a construction management tracker, and other board members had other ideas for other things. So that was kind of his. I don't think we did that for Matt, other than this.
So, is it possible to check, see if we did come up with them? I guess that's probably the most important thing. And the second is that those project goals are great as project goals, but they don't talk about other aspects of managing the town. And I would
Mark,
want
I think, I know where you're going, and I think based on prior evaluations, there are sections that address that, and Sean can correct me. I know what you're saying, Mark, and I think Chris is right. I think we did take a left turn when we were doing this a little bit, not in a bad way, but I think we try to make it as simple as possible given the shortness of the contract. But Sean, if you can help me, I know the review process is pretty thorough. I'm sure there are sections that have to do with management style, communication, overall how the town's running, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's what I think those operational kind of generic ones were. I'm looking at something from 2021 real quick just to see if it was similar. Leadership communication, high standards assessment. Yeah, they seem similar, but I don't know if they were. Oh no, human resources, management schedule, law, fiscal system. So I think don't quote me, but I think that you could probably use those same operational like standards.
Yeah.
I mean, I could send it ahead of time to you, Carlo, to just take a look to see if that's what you agree with. I can set everything up and say, here's what I think it would look like.
Okay, yeah. I mean, Mark, are you okay with that? I think Sean's right.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I think it's just important that we not just look at specific projects, but kind of the overall. And those
Yeah.
categories, I think, would accomplish that.
Yeah, big picture, yeah.
Yeah.
Karen, you have a comment?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. I do believe, my recollection is that in addition to the standards that we usually do the evaluation by, we just wanted to include these, limited project goals. That was my recollection, so if we just incorporate them into the normal format, that should be fine.
Yeah, I think, I trust Sean, and I will, if I have any questions, I will, obviously, sit down with Sean, and I'm sure Sean will send me an old version and a new version, and, or an updated version, I should say, and, I'll make sure it encompasses what we talked about tonight.
Can I share this real quick, an older one?
Sure.
Alright, I think this is what, and I'll make it a little bigger. So those are the goals up there that were specific. I think this is Bob's, but these are like can you see these here? Leadership, communication, commitment to high standards, and there's a scaling system there. I think one is the highest if you look up here, exemplary. So you got leadership, communication, commitment to high standards, assessment, evaluation, managing conflict, and then down here, environment, HR management, schedule, laws, ethics, policies, fiscal systems, sharing responsibility, communication, community concerns, and then I think there was like a general comments section.
Yeah.
And you can add a comment. So I think that part, if I'm not mistaken, was kind of generic. And then you just like zip in the just loop in the goals.
Karen, any other comment?
Yeah, thank you. I was gonna say, can we please, let's look at Fidel's, because I really, really struggled with that form that we were using a number of years ago, and I didn't feel that it was a format that we could give meaningful feedback. And part of that was tying it to the goals, which we did then outline in the contract. So, you know, there's things that we're looking for under these goals: communication, timeliness, attention to detail, you know, things like that. But I want to be careful about going back to review forms, because we really struggled. And when Fidel was here, I thought we made some significant changes to make it easier for select board members to get this done and effectively communicate feedback.
Karen, I mean, I don't disagree with you, but we can always make our own comments. You're talking about format, style of the review?
I just want to make sure that, so Sean pulled up one which is like 3 years old at this point, and we did, I don't know what form, I'd like us to like at least go back to the Fidel form, not go back to town managers, because I believe we made some changes, so.
I have a Word version of the Fidel one here, which I think looks pretty similar, so let me just open it. I don't have the final one in front of me, I'd have to go to a select board package for that, but let me just.
I think Sean was just highlighting what Mark was trying to convey. That's what Sean was highlighting, in a way. And then, listen, I like doing the numbers, and I also like providing comments and feedback. So I think there's no perfect way to do this, but
So this is the FY23 town manager evaluation for Fidel, so it had his goals up here. So those would be plugged in for what's in the contract, I would assume. And then it still had the same leadership communication commitment. I don't believe this changed.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Alright, that just seems very old style to me, and I know I'm gonna put my time and energy in the goals parts, because I don't feel like that form really works for the business of running town government anymore. I think it's too outdated, so I know nothing's perfect, but Sean, if you have some other samples, things we could use, you know, well, obviously there's always another review comment. Appreciate it, anything you see that looks interesting.
I can definitely look into that for the future. It might be tough for this for this one, but for the future for sure.
All right. Did we get to the vote? What were we doing? I forget.
This was format. It was a vote.
Oh, we already voted on the department heads.
Yep.
Yeah.
We voted for Sean to compile.
Yep.
And you were just
This is the
commenting,
form.
Mark, you're just making some comments, okay.
Yep.
On the form, and that's what we discussed. So we're all done with the voting. Can we move on, guys? Are we good?
All set.
All right, let me go on my agenda. Oh yeah, now we have, some traffic hearings. I thought I saw Lieutenant Jones walk in or someone, and I should have phone walked in.
Yeah.
I can read the notice, Carlo.
All right, please.
To the inhabitants of the town of Reading, please take notice that the Select Board of the town of Reading will hold a public hearing on December 3rd, 2024 at 7 p.m. in the Select Board meeting room at Town Hall, 16 Lowell Street, Reading, Mass. Are available remotely on Zoom to act on proposed changes to the following traffic and parking regulations. Amendment number 2024-10, the installation and maintenance of an official right turn only sign at the exit of 62 Willow Street parking lot onto Willow Street. Amendment number 2024-11, the installation and maintenance of an official left turn prohibited sign on the northerly side of Willow Street across from the entrance to the Mallet, Soames, and Morgan Conservation Area parking lot. Copy of the proposed documents available regarding this topic will be in the Select Board packet on the website at www.readingma.gov. All interested parties are invited to attend the hearing in person or remotely via Zoom, or may submit their comments in writing by email to townmanager@ci.reading.ma.us by order of Matthew A. Granellis, Town Manager.
Thank you, Chris. All right, so we have these in our packet, and I'm sure Lieutenant Jones has some comments. Take it away.
Yep, thank you. So this is the new driveway for the conservation area. It is right next to the railroad tracks, and that's those tracks. There is the raised median. There's a photo included in the packet that shows how the median blocks the driveway if you were going towards Austin Prep. So there's no way to make a left turn there unless you will go with median. And same way with leaving the driveway, if you go left, you'll be on the wrong side of the road because of the raised median there. So there's already signs installed. We put them in already for safety reasons. For right turn only out of the lot, so you stay on the correct side of the median, and also on Willow Street, so you can't turn left through the median.
Carlo, can I bring up a question?
Sure, please, yeah, sorry, yeah.
Given this setup, what's our goal for people who are traveling down Willow Street, not turning left but wanting to get in there? What's the strategy?
The strategy is to go past it and find a place to safely turn around and come back, because there's no safe way to turn left there. Because if you do, you're driving on the wrong side of the road for an extended period of time before you can turn left in there.
And so the length of that median is there on purpose to kind of channel things in front of the railroad tracks? Is that what the median's
Yes,
so
so
perfect?
that's there because of those are recommended from the Federal Railroad Administration is a raised curb system because of the grade of the road at the railroad crossing and a quiet zone. So a lot to take in, meaning that's the safest way to have a railroad crossing so that people aren't cutting around when the gates are put down. So unfortunately, it's at right where the driveway is. So there's not a lot of options other than to put these signs up requiring people to turn right out of the lot and not turn left into the lot.
So the likely path is going to be to go to the Austin Prep driveway and circle around the little median?
Most likely there, or down to find someplace safe in West Willow in Summer, or just if you know that's the way you're coming in, pre-plan it where you're coming in probably from Summer Ave.
Is there a way to help people? Well, they'll understand it when they can see the no left turn sign.
Right, and the median.
Median, right? So they've been discouraged, but
Right.
people probably still want to get in there.
Right. We didn't have any incidents or anything to preempt this. It was brought to the police's attention from the engineering department. So that's when we realized we had to do something there.
I have a question, Carlo.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks. I understand the no left turn when you're leaving the lot, because that makes sense. Some people might not realize, and then all of a sudden there's an accident. For me, going down Willow towards Austin Prep, I don't understand the point of a no left turn sign when even I would never turn left in there over all of those pylons like that. Like, what is I understand it's just a sign, but like, I don't see anyone actually ever trying to do that.
We were trying to prevent someone from trying to drive on the wrong side of the road to take the left turn.
But it could be like that for any driveway, for any left turn going down Willow Street is the same scenario.
Right, but since they're not going to be able to do that anyways, then what would be the harm in putting a sign reminding people not to do that?
I don't want to say it's wasteful to put up a sign because it's only a sign, but it does seem wasteful that we're only putting up a sign to put up a sign that no one is ever going to. I understand the safety on the other side, absolutely, but for this seems.
Again, the sign's already up as well.
Is it? Well,
They were put up because of
Yeah.
the safety factor, especially taking the left out of there, because that's the side that's not guarded by the railroad gate coming down. If someone were to go on the wrong side of the road there.
I guess if it's already up, then I guess I'm fine with it, but I just see that left being wasteful. It's probably $100, but it is what it is. So thanks.
Again, it's not to ticket anybody, it's to keep people from doing it. So even if it's another reminder of seeing the barrier, I shouldn't do this, and then seeing the sign as well, just to keep people from driving over it, because those, I'm sure Chris can attest that they're replaced a lot from people either in the snow or just hitting them. And then seeing that plus seeing the sign just to avoid any kind of incident down there.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Melissa, anything?
I did have a question, but I think Chris just answered it by saying, I was gonna say, could you take out a couple of those reflective vertical things to allow a left turn in there, but it sounds like the barrier itself will break if you drive over it.
Yeah, the barrier is, I think mostly just plastic.
Plastic, okay,
Right.
so it doesn't work.
And then there's certain regulations of how far back it has to be
Got it.
as
From the
well.
train tracks to
Right.
be able to do that, okay, that makes sense, all right.
Karen?
Thank you. I have the same concern. I can't think of other railroad crossings where we have those distracting, frankly. I understand, I appreciate the explanation that they're supposed to help people. I find them in that particular area to be incredibly distracted and that leads to dangerous driving. And I'm wondering if we have any opportunities to push back because, you know, a federal rule, I'm not sure it's being applied consistently across the Commonwealth. And if a rule in a particular situation makes an intersection more dangerous, it's certainly less helpful for our residents who really want to go down there and use that facility. Do we have any options to reevaluate those stupid plastic things? So, and let me get this straight, those plastic things, which will come down if you drive over them, are to keep people from driving around the locomotive arms and killing themselves. Am I understanding that correctly? That's the sole purpose of those distracting things that will not stop a car.
They're meant to keep people who are stopped to stay in their lane so that they won't go around.
Trains will start blowing out once again.
Right. It's to maintain the quiet zone. Otherwise, trains have to blow the horn when they go through there. It's a quiet zone regulation to have them there.
It doesn't seem like a good one. It really doesn't.
It's not a flat road either. I think the grading, Lieutenant Jones mentioned that it's the grading of the road maybe, I'm not sure.
Yeah, the two of the requirements are the quiet zone and the grade of the road. The other one in town is on New Crossing, heading to the DPW.
Do we not have them on Main Street?
No, they're not on Main Street.
Why would they not be on Main Street?
Probably because of the grade of the road there. I'm not sure. But in my time as a police officer, that's the only place where I've seen someone drive around there is on Main Street where they don't have it. So I'll throw that in there as well.
So they
I
should,
mean, you can't stop people from, you can't, and certainly you're not, if you put a Jersey barrier there, you're gonna stop people from crossing the road. Putting a plastic thing in the middle of the road that they can drive over anyway, and the net result is now we can't get into the mount zones, and it's just, I think it makes that intersection more distracting, and you have more things to look at and figure out why the hell are those there? They've never been there before. I don't even know if we have, do we have signs that say railroad crossing approaching? I would question whether those are making that intersection more safe, and they certainly are limiting our ability to now use it out.
How long they've been before?
Thank
for
you.
a long time.
Several
I-
years.
Can I-
They've been there almost 10 years.
Yeah, those
They've
yellow
been there at
things
least
have
10
been there for
years.
a long time.
So it's because of the quiet zone. So the alternative would be probably bringing the horn back.
Can we get Ryan chime in? Ryan, our engineer, has had his hand up. Maybe he can shed some color on this.
Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Excellent, thank you. Sorry, I just wanted to chime in and kind of help Chris out a little bit here. We do not have a choice as far as the delineators are concerned. If we do not want the train to blow the horn, the delineators have to be up in some fashion. They can be in a fashion of these yellow delineators, or they can be in a more elaborate fashion. However, if they are not up, the train will go by and will blow the horn. If anyone remembers, this was a pretty big deal throughout town, maybe about 15 years ago. Chris, I don't know if you remember that, but it was a big regulation that came down from the Federal Railroad Administration. So we really do not have a say at what they're called at-grade crossings. Main Street's different because there's better sight lines and it doesn't trigger that criteria. New Crossing and Willow Street trigger that criteria. So Those are our options. If you take down the delineators, they will blow the horn every time they cross that. I hope that helps, that's helpful information.
Yeah, no, it definitely helps when, Karen, you made it sound like people can't use the area. Of course they can. I mean, that's a kind of silly comment.
If I could just ask,
I disagree with that, Carl, because what Mark just explained is now, and I'm not arguing that it's really awkward making that left turn right now. You do have to go on the wrong side of the road. But now, you heard the officer say, we have to go somewhere, so you're gonna turn in someone's driveway or find a safe place to turn. So we're just creating a problem somewhere else. We just don't know where it is yet. So that's why I made the comment.
Yeah, I think, listen, it's, those have been there for a while. I've been there 15 years. I don't know how long those delineators have been there, but with this new driveway, yeah, it's going to be different. But hopefully, people that use that area a lot will come in off for summer, and they'll get used to it. I think the sign maybe is a little bit overkill, but I agree that public safety is always first, especially near a train.
I guess if I could just ask Ryan, it does look like they do go super far back from the train tracks. I'm not disagreeing that they're probably put up to code, but do they really have to go that far back? Because then that solves everyone's issue. But if they have to be where they currently are, then it is what it is.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's a great question, Chris. Unfortunately, they have to be that distance back. Anytime we have any of them broken, we get a call from the railroad right away to replace them. If we were able to pull them back, that would solve your problem. If it helps at all, I have personally witnessed people go on the left-hand side down that road during construction to get into the Millette Homes property, unfortunately. So it does occur. People do it. I think it's just a matter of making sure people stay safe. And I understand that it's not a great, it's just not a great situation with the railroad there and the delineators. We all wish they weren't there, but that's sort of what we're dealing with, I think.
Carlo?
Yeah.
What land do we own? Is there any opportunity to pull it back up Willow toward 129, the driveway? Is there more space?
No, there's a house there.
There's a house there. No, there's not more space. So you can't get past it on the side close of 129. No, that's too bad.
Right.
Can buy the house.
All right, do you have a motion if there's no more comment on this one?
Well, I have the.
Well, this is the hearing, right?
Correct, yes.
And we're just doing one individually, correct? We're not doing both.
I have two separate things, but we would have to close the hearing, so if the public has any comment.
Yeah, that's what I mean, so, the motion to close the hearing.
Before you do-
Anyone in the room or on Zoom? Let's speak. Seeing none, Chris, you see anything in the room?
Nope, all set here.
All right, I don't see anyone on Zoom, so, motion to close the public hearing.
Yeah, move to close the hearing regarding safety amendment 2024-10 and 2024-11.
Second.
Thanks, Mark. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, roll call. Melissa?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes,
Carlo, yes. All right, the hearing is closed for this particular amendment. We have a motion for the vote.
Yeah, move to approve safety amendment 2024-10 to the traffic and parking regulations as presented.
Second.
Thanks, Mark. That's a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote. Melissa?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Karen?
yes,
Carlo, yes. Thank you. 5-0. Let's go on to the next one, please.
Move to approve safety amendment 2024-11 to the traffic and parking regulations as presented.
Second.
Next one, any discussion? Seeing none. Melissa?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Carlo, yes. 5-0, thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Right, we have, I think Ryan is here.
Excuse me.
Vote on the 264 Ash Street driveway waiver request. It's in our packet, hopefully we'll have a chance to look at it. Ryan, you want to take us through it, please?
I'd be happy to. 264 Ash Street, this originally came to the engineering office for approval for a double driveway. The original plan did not meet the driveway rules and regulations as set forth by the select board for two reasons. One, they didn't have 125 feet of separation between the two driveways, and two, the two driveways themselves on the original plan were 34 feet. So the applicant, we've worked with the applicant, Mr. Cresta. He changed those widths of the driveways down to a compliant 24, so we're really only dealing with a 125-foot waiver here between the two driveways. A little background information, and I'm happy if I can share the screen. I don't mind sharing the plan so we can look at it, if that helps.
Yeah, that would help.
Okay.
Ryan, you should be able to.
All right, thank you. I'm just going to go to the memo portion here of your packet and just scroll down.
Page 17, here it is, yep.
This was the original plan, so I'm not going to bore everyone. There's a lot of markups on here, but they did revise it to what we're looking at here. So this is the proposed plan with a 224-foot curb cut and a separation of 40 feet. So you'd be waiving the separation requirement of 125 feet. The background information on this is that it's a pre-existing two-family home. It had two driveways on this lot previously. So they're not really adding a new driveway, they're just modifying those driveways. This did go in front of ZBA and was approved to be raised and rebuilt as a two-unit. I will say that Ash Street is very, very fast street, and there are other double driveways on this stretch that are not uncommon with this area. This was presented to PTTF, Public Safety, Planning, Engineering sits on that board. We saw no reason to deny this waiver on the caveat that there is a lot of impervious area on this lot now that's being proposed, and engineering would like to have mitigation for that stormwater control because of that, for the waiver.
In that waiver, that request is, we'll go in front of CPDC, correct?
No, so this, you mean the request for the two driveways?
No, for the stormwater.
Oh, so the stormwater, no, that would be done during the review of the building permit.
Okay.
And that would be handled through the engineering office via the building permit process. Yep. And the driveway approval process, which happens if this waiver goes through, we would then go through the approval process.
And the applicant is aware of that process as well?
Yes, the applicant's been working with engineering since September. They're very well aware what transpired. They've been very helpful, and so they're aware of what's going to transpire.
Okay, so this is a knockdown and a rebuild.
That is correct.
All right. Board members, any other questions or comments?
I've got a question, Carlo.
Yep.
Ryan, so I note that Mr. Cresta indicated he'll work with the engineering department and recommendations for water mitigation. Does that mean that in construction, that will be part of their plan and their responsibility?
That is correct. So as part of the building of this lot, this build out, during the building permit process and the driveway approval process, if it happens after this, we would make sure that they have a design that's sufficient enough to try to mitigate as much stormwater that they can.
Thank you.
No other comments? I think we can go to a vote.
Yep, move to approve the driveway waiver request submitted for 264 Ash Street as presented.
Second.
Karen Beatty.
Karen first, any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll do a roll call vote. Melissa?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Charlie has 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now to our fun topic of second meters.
Economic development.
Yes, that's what I meant, economic development. Hoping Kevin is there.
Kevin is here.
Good evening, folks.
Evening.
I am just going to run through some topics. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get this included in your packet in time, so I'm going to run through them. If you have questions, feel free to stop me, or you can hold them until the end. My thunder has been stolen on Shop the Block, so I will skip right over that item. But it is my first Shop the Block, so I'm pretty excited about it. Although it looks like it could be, depending on weather forecast, it could be a little sloppy. So it's probably our first real taste of winter. The other topic I want to go to, I'm going to run right into the buzzsaw again and raise the the topic of parking downtown. My sense on this, I have been, my role is, as I see it, is to be in communication with the business owners and retailers downtown, and to be the conduit of information to them, between them and the town as much as possible. And the week before Thanksgiving, I did go around again, as I've made a habit of doing, and going door to door and speaking with them, or as many of them as I can. That is not it's by no means a scientific survey, but it is sort of a measure of sentiment and how they feel about it. And I think while they're all very busy and business is busier, it is that season. So I want to be respectful of their time. The business owners I spoke to and the employees, if the owners themselves weren't there, they seem to think that things were better now, at least if temporarily. The reality is even now there doesn't seem to be a overall shortage of parking in Reading. I think folks who visitors and residents, they rarely have to circle the block to find a spot. They do maybe once or twice, and I think that's probably a change from years past, and it's not a particularly welcome change. And everyone goes, and they get a bit frustrated. But I think it is probably a reality, and is more likely to happen in the future, almost no matter what action the board takes with regard to paid parking or not. The things that I would encourage you to think about between now and when we revisit the topic of parking in January is the effect of that hybrid working has had on that. And I think the patterns, I think, are shifting and changing, and I think that we need to try and thread that needle. It is clear from the conversations that I've had, and probably from the ones you've had as well, is that the various constituents and stakeholders probably won't satisfy everybody. I think that's impossible. Some people think there should be paid parking, and some people think that there should never ever be paid parking in Reading. And I don't know how you square that circle. But it is part of my job is to help thread that needle, based on whatever decision we come to when we revisit the topic in the new year. So, on to better topics. I do want to talk about the Eastern Gateway. As Matt said again, he stole my thunder again. We do have the first public engagement session on the 11th of December, next Wednesday at 7 p.m. at the Pleasant Street Centre. The letters have been mailed, I believe, to the official abutters for the two parcels in question. I also made a point of visiting a lot of the businesses with the flyers that we have for that event to make sure that they feel included. Communication is one of the first things that undermines trust in the public process, and so I think it's important that everybody feels that they heard about it, and so I think this is an exciting opportunity. These are two priority development areas which date back to the 2016 to 2022 development plan for Reading, and so they are a total of about 30 acres. I'm assuming that you're familiar with roughly where the Eastern Gateway is. Okay. The two larger property owners are RMLD and also the owners of General Way. The most likely path is for RMLD is to consolidate on site, and so we think we are engaged with them. We think that's the path they're pursuing right now. They've talked about that, and I think they're actually in motion to do that. And in conjunction with them, we have engaged a design consultant to start the preliminary drawings for that. I don't know what the timeline is for having those to present, but that's that. The other thing to note about General Way is that Community Development Director Andrew McNichol has an ongoing relationship with the existing relationship, I should say, with the owner of that site, and so based on what we know from those previous engagements, he's amenable to developing the lot, has expressed interest in developing it. So I think there are deals to be done there. So that's pretty exciting because that's a pretty big parcel of land in the town that's zoned industrial and has a lot of potential. The next step in addition to the public meeting is the Priority Planning Steering Committee. So we have started to schedule meetings for that as early as next week with the various members of that committee, which will be comprised of boards, representatives, should say, from town committees, and then also selected resident volunteers, as well as representation from RMLD itself. Timeline for that is we expect to fill those positions by the end of the year, and that the boards would start to meet in the new year, and the work of the committee would start then. A quick update on vacant commercial property. The site of the former site of Pamplemousse on Haven Street it remains vacant. The same broker is also marketing 553, which is Main Street, which is the former Reading Community TV space. And when I spoke to him and said, okay, can you give me an update? Is there interest? What's going on? He basically said there's fairly low interest in both of those spaces. Both are a little large for the type of clients that have been sniffing around them. So I'm not sure what that means, but I just thought I'd share that type of sentiment with you here. General Way has, as you probably know, has several commercial spaces available for lease. 18 Woburn Street has new build space, retail space on the ground floor still. 274 Main Street has some office space available, as does 570 Main Street, which has second floor space available. With regard to a couple of items on development, Bay State Liquors is expanding into the former natural food space on Main Street. I checked in with the managers there, and they said that the crews have been working hard, and that seems to have happened in the last few weeks or the last month or so. They expect to be done by the end of December, so that'll be a significant expansion of their footprint there. It looks like it's probably doubling their footprint in there. The historic church at 32 Lowell Street is for sale. It's 7,000 square feet on a 21,000 square foot lot. As you probably know, it's currently a dance school. It is listed on the Mass Historic Register, so any changes of use or any changes to the exterior certainly would be subject to approval by historic, probably Massachusetts as well as Reading. The last one under development is the Main Street development on Washington and Main Street on the corner there. That is, according to the developers, on track for completion September 2025. And you can see the progress they've made in the past few weeks if you've driven by at all. I do want to talk about also the bid district that has been essentially shelved by the business owners downtown, and they've decided to shift their focus more towards a Main Streets model, which I don't know if you're familiar with Main Streets, but it is a revitalization model developed in the, actually I'm not sure when it was developed, to be honest, but it was the National Trust for Historic Preservation. And part of that requires the creation of a 501c3 to be the entity that carries forward that work. I think from talking to a couple of the business owners, they felt that the Main Streets platform or model gives them more flexibility, just a little more flexibility to do what they want, and essentially isn't isn't really a tax, a mandatory tax on the businesses to participate in it, which I think they felt this gives them more. So that that decision seemed to happen sometime in the late fall or around the September timeframe. So not good timing for them to planning as they went into their busy season. So I'm expecting them to pick that up Q1 of 2025. And of course, we will continue to provide whatever assistance, technical and otherwise, that we can to the group to help them with that endeavor. So the MBTA Communities Act, with the passage of Article 17, we are now unofficially in compliance with that until it is, I believe, the process it gets to be reviewed by the state, and then we're officially in compliance with that. The main thing from my point of view is that it maintains our eligibility for a lot of state grants. The most obvious of which was mentioned many times. It's the $2.6 million of MassWorks grant funding that remains available to us. So we are, it's a brave new world for that. As we've said many times, it doesn't mean the development won't happen, but it helps us. We now have some work to do to continue to create the conditions where we hope the right type of development that we seek happens in those zones. The last thing that I want to mention is the sort of going into the end of the year for priorities for me and for the department remain identifying and prioritizing grants for 2025. So as we move into that, that'll be a good chunk of my focus going into that and into the new year would be to figure out which state grants, and also through agencies like MAPC and other, see if we can unlock other grants from those, as well as federal grants, obviously, through our delegation. So that's just a quick run through of the highlights. I'm happy to take your questions if you have any.
I'll let you guys go in the room first.
I'll go, Carlo. And thank you for all those updates. I did see the for sale sign outside during the tree lighting thing. I walked by and I'm like, there's no way that I thought there was a ballet studio in here. So are they really gone?
To the best of my knowledge, there have been a couple of inquiries, yeah, from what I understand.
No, what I mean is, like, are they officially
I heard music today as I was parking the car, so
They're still in there.
I believe they're still there, yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
just double checking, because I was like, because it doesn't look like you can walk in the building, at least from all the construction that's over there.
Not
I'm not getting in, which is, I guess, a good thing. And then, in terms of the no more bid scenario, so it's just, I've never heard of the alternative. So it's just a 501c3 that people can contribute, and then that money gets used however the 501c3 would see fit in that area?
Yes, that's essentially it. I to be quite honest, I think there are, I think it's a loose framework. And that's what I think the attraction is of the model, which is that it does give them the flexibility to do exactly those types of things, and they feel less bound by it. I don't know what the fundraising mechanisms are for it at this stage, to be honest. So that will be somewhat of a learning curve for me, as well as obviously for the businesses.
But that's not something that we'll have to vote on in the future, like the bid we would have.
It would be,
they can do whatever they want.
It would be a private endeavor.
Okay.
Of course, definitely supported by me and the department, naturally.
I think that's everything, yes. But yeah, thank you. Welcome to Reading. I know it's the first time that you've been here. You've been here multiple times, but it's good to put a face to the name, and wish you the best of luck here.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mark or Melissa?
Thanks, Carlo. Thanks, everybody. First, thanks. Great. Would love to kind of get these updates on a somewhat regular basis. I think it'd be a great idea to do it, and this was very helpful. I have a lot of comments. So on parking downtown, I think two things. One, you've heard this board's very clear message to employees not to use those spots. Would ask that you reinforce that. That's, you know, whatever the solution's gonna be, it's not gonna be employee parking. So we need that help to kind of keep that going. The board, I think, has clearly stated that multiple members multiple times, so we need to kind of keep that there. The second part on that is, I think we're gonna need help in terms of a process on how to move things ahead. So we need to be thinking about what that process might be and how, maybe different ideas on how we could think about it. And maybe asking you to start the process of thinking and then come to the board and we can have a discussion, say, here's where we wanna go.
I should note that I would mostly defer to Deputy Chief Amendola, since this is largely an enforcement issue, and even the points you raise are largely enforcement. But again, as a liaison, I'm happy to play that role all day long.
Yeah, or maybe even participating with us, because we the board need to have a process to make a decision at that point. We made investments, we responded to problems of not enough space, concerns raised for other things.
Yep.
And we're not where we want to be. As you said, it's very dynamic, but it can't just sit. So, okay. Eastern Gateway stuff, so great, and great you're in touch with RMLD. So I know they've been having different discussions about expand, move elsewhere, consolidate, whatever, so it sounds like consolidate. This board had discussions about the old station building that's there.
Yep.
And I, for one, would like to hear more about, I mean, is it just gonna sit there and hold, you know, leaky generators? Or-
I'll paraphrase what they told us, which is that they are definitely going to make that a centerpiece of whatever they do. That seems to be the sentiment. They like the building. They heard loud and clear that the town likes the building, and the residents like the building. It's got history. They love it, and they'll be keeping it. It may wind up being a place that you can go and pay your bill, or a showcase for technology. Those are a couple of the things they floated when we met with them recently. They also do have to manage the tension between having it open and the fact that it is a somewhat restricted space because it is a utility. And so there's more security paid to utility facilities. So it's right in the middle of a utility facility. But yes, they want to keep the building, they love the building, and hopefully showcase its beauty.
And so how will that factor into the development activities surrounding? So that,
well, when
we've seen plans for parks and all sorts of
Yeah.
things that would be there.
I
And
would
so-
say when the design consultant that the town and RMLD have engaged comes back with some ideas, I think that's probably the best point, excuse me, the best time to say, well, this is what the vision is.
Yeah, so it sounds like maybe some joint planning would make sense as opposed to kind of one
Yeah.
side doing their planning and then kind of it is what it is.
I mean, this only happened a couple of weeks ago, so this is very
Yeah,
early.
yeah.
There's nothing to share.
And sorry, I'm not
Yeah.
barking at you if that's what it sounds
No,
like.
not at all,
Apologies.
not at all. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
General Way, so, have there been any new plans developed by the folks that own that, or is it the same plan that we've seen multiple times?
Right now, I'm not sure that there's any new plan. I'm not familiar with the old plan. I understand that it had some deficiencies in terms of the wetlands. The proposal would go through wetlands, which was just difficult, problematic to say the least. So, but we are I can't emphasize how early we are in the process.
Yeah.
And I know that's also one of the reasons why we're bringing in the public so early. In some sense, there's nothing to show the public yet. It's more of a listening session to say, hey, look at these plots, tell us your ideas. That iterative process is we want to make sure we're on the right side of it and people don't accuse anybody of the other thing is, of course, we don't own the plots. So our power is the power to convene, right?
Yeah, and having some discussions. I think that it may be that a change in approach or attitude or opportunity would shake that up a little bit. Maybe, I don't know who has the ability to do that. It may not be us at all. But,
Indeed, it may not. Yeah.
yeah, but this it's an interesting space. I know there's interest in having the town develop the infrastructure there differently / better. And I would imagine that
I think
there would be
there's-
things that we would want to get in exchange for that.
And I think there are opportunities for the town and local residents to benefit enormously from improved flow.
Yeah, access through the whole thing.
Yeah, indeed.
Awesome. The open spaces that you talked about, the available spaces, all
Yes.
that's up on our website also, yes?
It is and it isn't. Some of the stuff remains up there. Some of the stuff I have not yet updated. I have to fall on my sword there and say that is one of the things that I haven't familiarized myself with how to do yet, and I need to be more fluent with that.
Awesome. I'm glad I've written down grant funding, and then you talked about grant funding, so that was kind of perfect timing. I think that the town is seeing, some very big priorities with some big projects, and I think what that also means is that other projects, such as the downtown development that we were just looking at, are kind of lower down on the list. So grant funding is great and really pretty necessary, I think, to kind of move some of these items ahead and get them considered. So I applaud you working on it. I think that's a key ingredient. And that actually is all I have. Thanks.
You're on mute, I think, Carla.
Thanks. Mark, are you good? Can Melissa go?
Yes, thanks.
I don't really have any questions. I just want to say thank you for this. I agree with Mark. I think this update more frequently would be great. So we're kind of sort of aware of what's going on. And yeah, thank you for coming tonight and
My
giving
pleasure.
the update.
No problem.
Karen?
Thank you. I appreciate this update. I'd love to see this quarterly and, oh boy, too bad that church is in a fabulous location. Can we give, our economic developer the name of the person who sent in the unsolicited proposal for the Pleasant Street Center and make sure they know that this building is available? Because I understood that was gonna be a residential development, and what a great place for people to live and shop in downtown. Thank you.
Thanks, yeah, Kevin, good update. People Moose is Penalty for a long time. It is a big space. Maybe the developer can subdivide it, or I don't know if that's available because of all the HVAC and the plumbing, but I'm glad to see that the liquor store is expanding to Natural Food Exchange. We have the boutique on Gould Street that's been open next to the kids' party place, so that's good. Those two spaces are full. And yeah, RCTV, that is a very big space. But that could be maybe even the service, or who knows, for retail, it's a little tough over there. But anyway, yeah, thanks for the update. And based on the meeting that I had with Greg Phipps at RMLD and Andrew and Jane and Matt, was that RMLD is proactively reaching out and looking to expand their campus, and then in conjunction with allowing better access and flow through that property and to New Crossing Road and to the Walker's Brook area. So I know Andrew is working and the two teams know what each other wants. Again, how it gets developed, those are all private property owners back there, and some are willing to sell and some are not. So that's to be determined. But my takeaway was that RMLD needs more space in the coming years, and they're trying to get ahead of that. And they work with us to stay, if possible. They do service other towns, but they like the location, and doesn't mean they're not looking elsewhere, but they need room for their trucks, they need room for their transformers, they need room for their staff, they need, buildings that are high ceilings, so we have a lot of that there already. So I'm hoping it all works out in the future. I know the vision for Eastern Gateway is a big one, but hopefully someday we'll get there. That's all I have. Thank you, Kevin.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks.
Okay, now it's the fun subject of all, right? Correct? Yes. discussed, so we have all that information in our packet. And I see Chris at the podium, so take it away, Chris.
Okay, thank you. So pleased to be here again tonight, just to give the board a quick update on some of the feedback that we received from one of the last meetings we had with you, and to hopefully give you enough information that you'll be able to make a decision tonight on some of these parts of this policy, and then take a final vote on it. So go to the first slide, Caitlin, please. Okay, so just to recap from the last time we met, this is a 400 unit pilot program that the board would like us to do. At the last meeting, it was decided this would only be residential only, no commercial, no industrial, and for outside water use only. Rain sensor and backflow preventer would be required as part of having a second water meter. The property owners would pay for all permitting, plumbing work, and the second water meter and transponder. Penalties would be charged for any illegal tampering that is found. And per the feedback from the board, filling swimming pools will be allowed through the second meter. Next slide, please. And then also, any properties with the existing second water meters, I think there's around 150 out there from what we have records on, will require inspections by town staff, both building departments, so the plumbing inspector, and DPW water meter division, and include replacement of the old meter because the meters that are there are probably 25 years old. And then there also may be plumbing reconfigurations that are going to be required inside the building based on where the irrigation comes into the foundation to where the water service comes in, because if they're not lined up in the same location, you may need to do some internal plumbing to get everything lined up. Those properties that do have the second meters will all receive a letter inquiring whether or not they want to be part of the pilot program and what that process would be to do so. We have been working with our IT department to create an application process. It will be through OpenGov. It will start as a plumbing permit and go through the various processes there. We would have to start with a plumber. The property owner would have to hire a plumber, and the plumber would fill out initiate the permit through OpenGov, and then go through that process. And then once all the plumbing inspections have been done, it would trigger an inspection with Public Works to then go schedule an appointment at the site to install the second meter and do all that final work. And then after some feedback from the board at the last meeting, and also speaking with, having meetings with Mr. Silva, recently we have removed the restriction that we had in there previously for the on the off-season water usage on the second meter, and any fines with that. So if the board wants us to put it back, we can, but for at the moment it has been removed. You will notice in your packets, though, there was a Scribner's error that was found, again by Mr. Silva, thank you, on page 4 of your packets that still references the off-season water restriction and fine that has since been taken out, and Caitlin has the revised version for the record. Next slide, Caitlin, please. Now this slide right here, at the request of the board at the last meeting, all of these communities that you see listed here now are all comparable communities to Reading. They both have full MWRA water and sewer, and they all allow second water meters. And those are the rates for the various tiers, as well as the rates that they currently charge for a second water meter. So the board would, have to make a decision as far as what the rate in Reading should be for the second meter. See, like 3 of the communities listed there, they all just have the top tier be the rate for the second meter. Others do a certain percent increase, higher than the top tier. There's one that's kind of in between tier 1 and tier 2, so. And then in addition to this, if you want to just go to the last slide, Caitlin, and then we can go back to that if you want. The board needs to again decide what you want to set for a rate for the second water meter. Town staff discussed, and we'd like to instill a $100 application fee with this as well. And the question got brought up also at the last meeting, should there be a penalty charge for not canceling an appointment? The building department already has something like this in effect, and it's at the discretion of the building commissioner. It's $50 if they want to impose that fee on someone for not canceling an appointment if they couldn't make it. So we'd ask for the same fee for DPW if we schedule an appointment with the property and they're not home when we arrive there, then we have the right to impose that fee as well. And then also approve the tamper fee, which we have in the policy now as $300 for if any tampering is found internally related to the second meter. So that is all I have, so open it up to questions.
Yeah, I'll start, keep tradition, start in the room. Anyone in the room want to go?
I guess I'll go first, Carlo, again. I know
Okay.
Mark's itching to go, but, I'll fight him off for now.
I'm patient.
So thank you for putting the MW area communities in here. I won't belabor the point that Belmont, Stoneham, Lexington, I don't even know how Brookline has $3 water to begin with. It's almost pi, 3.14, so this just seems, these numbers are just in the grand scheme of things, pointless to me because they're so low, anybody would be okay with these things. So I guess what I was looking at in terms of the second meter is there a way to just, whatever your existing tier is what you end up getting billed at, or is this not possible in the system? Meaning, I'm on tier 3 water or whatever, and then I use my outside meter. Is it possible that would count as tier 3, or you can't get that involved? You have to make tiers for second meters, which then becomes a whole to-do.
I can't speak for collectors. I'm not sure how that would work. I mean, from what I've seen from other communities, I have not seen multiple tiers for a second water meter. It's all been just a flat rate. They usually just choose the top rate for the regular water usage for the second meters. But aside from that, I haven't seen tiered rates for the second meters in what I've.
All right, so I guess where I would be for that, I wouldn't be fine with the top tier, because if you're in tier 4, you should be using tier 4 water. And if you have a single family home and you're in tier 1 and decide to use outside water, where you still would have been tier 1 to begin with, I'm not okay with still charging someone tier 4. We're trying to fix the issue for everybody, and we're creating another one by doing this.
Also, if somebody's in tier 4 now, by having a second meter, they're probably going to go to a lower tier because they're going to be using less water now on the domestic.
Correct. So on that other portion. So I'm also not okay with just saying tier 1 and then just this is what I would be okay with the second meter. I guess I would go for the combo between all of it and go between tier 2 and tier 3 and just set that at $12.30 or something, because that seems like it's in the middle of both. What's that?
Average all 4, it's $12.17,
Oh, okay, so
just saying.
thank you for for that, so I was somewhat close. I guess I would be okay with 1217. I'm not gonna be okay with tier 4 on people who aren't using tier 4 water. Now, I understand you make this decision for yourself in the first place, and you know these decisions ahead of time. So if you knew you were tier 4, you might not do a second meter. I understand all the ramifications. As I've explained, I have or had, depending on what day it is, irrigation, it's cut. Who knows if it'll get fixed? In any event, I won't get the second meter because for me to financially put it in, it's not worth it to go through the whole process, do everything. It's, thousands to do whatever, and you gotta make that money back. And, if I scale it out, yes, after 10 years, maybe I win. But I'm not the same as everybody else, so some might win after 2-3 months. That's for them to decide, not for me. So that's kind of how I'm at on that. So I'm good with the 1217 if we wanted to do that for the second meter. In terms of the tamper fee, the $300 that you mentioned, absolutely. We don't want people screwing around with this stuff. So $300 for me is fine. The other permit stuff that you put in there, canceling appointments, absolutely. I'm sure if someone calls in there, saying I can't make the thing or whatever, and nobody goes there, you're not going to charge them even though you might have a 24-hour notice or whatever. I'm sure DPW is working with people and not out to screw them.
Oh, yeah.
Make $50 a person. So,
Like the building department, they
Yeah.
use it at their discretion,
correct. So I'm sure you're going to do things within reason for that. I guess the bigger thing for me is when I started with the water rate stuff back a couple of years ago and just seeing how we come to our numbers that we have, I always asked myself, how can we actually bring these down? Because I thought that you couldn't. I didn't think that there would be a way. I know we're in MWRA for 2 more years for the buyout, I think is the deal.
2 or 3 more years.
So I understand there's a buy-in there. We got there at the wrong time. It is what it is at this point. I know numbers just keep going up, and up, and they're not going down. That's just maybe the current world, the new world we're in, who knows? But after I did meet with Paul and go over the water meter stuff as well, just to see, it was very enlightening to see the possibility of actually us tanking our water rates. Now, it's not going to happen overnight, but being a business owner myself, if I can sell you something for $12.17, why am I ever going to restrict you buying that from me for $12.17 when I pay $4 for it? We're getting triple the money back. That's how we're ending up with these surpluses in the first place, is we're using more water than the MWRA ascribed us. We're putting money into reserves, and then we're offsetting the rates at the end of the year. 500,000, I think we did last time. Something like that. But as I've said multiple times, the only way to get us out of where we're at is using more water. It's backwards. That's the only way for us to reduce our rates, is to do that. Because if I can sell you $12 water, why am I going to restrict that on every other day of the week? Where one side of the street can do it for this, one side can do that. Why do we have the restriction in the first place? And it's because, like he had mentioned, back in 2007, whatever, the oil spill, the whole thing when we had wells, I understand conserving. But the Quabbin Reservoir does have a website that's like up to date all the time. It's got so many analytics numbers, like it's very well what they do over there. And I checked back this year, and the capacity back in April, May was 100.4%. They're over capacity by 0.4%. And I'm telling you, you can't water your lawn on even number days if you have an odd numbered house. Why am I doing that? I'm costing us $12. You make the decision to spend the $12 on the water, not me. And if you want to do it, and if more people do it, we end up with a bigger surplus, which is going to bring down the overall water rate for everybody. There's no getting around that. The more water we buy and charge people $12 for, the lower the overall rate is going to be for everyone. So I understand going second meters, the sewer is gonna shift things a little bit. But like I said, it's been broken since 2007, in my mind. You will never change it. You can't charge someone for sewer if they're not using sewer. I'm not gonna belabor the point again. But for me, just seeing that MWRA spends millions, billions, whatever they're doing. I saw a drought map, I'm going off topic, but I saw the map back in 2022 or whatever, and like people talk about gerrymandering districts to whatever. What it looks like that's what they did in Massachusetts. Every MWRA community was like carved out, and all the other ones had all these restrictions put on, but not MWRA because it's the Quabbin Reservoir, 100.4 like I had mentioned. The Wachusett Reservoir, that's even higher currently than the Quabbin one. I don't know why, is what it is. It just seems like we created these restrictions back in the day for a reason, and we still impose them today, which is preventing me from selling you $12 water, which is then increasing the rate for everybody else.
Well, I can tell you that those restrictions date back to when we did convert over to MWRA. And those were restrictions that were imposed, mandated by us, by Mass DEP, when we switched over. And we've had to comply with those restrictions ever since then because we still actually have rights to draw water from the Ipswich River, because up until this past year, Reading actually didn't have full redundancy with MWRA. And as far as our water supply. Mass DEP would not allow us to remove our restriction on the Ipswich River. So now that we have full redundancy, the town is going to be starting to go through the process to look at removing that restriction with Mass DEP.
I see. So that exists. So the odd even house scenario exists because we were still part of something. Okay, so that's not something that we can change tonight.
And the Quabbin Reservoir is at 85% right now.
Yes. But like I mentioned earlier, it was 100.4 in April, May. And I went back, believe me, I looked 1989, they have everything. And I looked all the numbers to see maybe I can find a 50 in there or something, you know what, they have water. That's what they do. They're experts. If they're going to want us to conserve in the future and put restrictions on us, they're going to put restrictions, and we're going to do it because we have to. But they haven't done it before. I don't see them doing it. And like I referenced a year ago, the report that I read was we're good till 2045 with added taking on new towns and doing all this stuff. And I agreed with Mark that water is a precious resource other than Massachusetts, but I'm going to refine that statement to money is more of a precious resource currently right now. And if we can reduce these rates, we're not going to be $6.95 like Stoneham. I know that's not going to happen. We have other capital and everything else that you do in there, which has to be done. And you buy it for the 0% interest rate, absolutely, all day. But our rates have to come down, and this is the way to do it. And I understand earlier Angela's point that we can't just put Stoneham over this, et cetera. But the point that Paul was making with the $8.91, whatever scenario, that's already taking into account Reading's other aspects that are already ascribed in there, the buy-in, the current capital, et cetera, that's going on. So for me, hearing that we have to keep the restrictions, I was going to say that I want to remove the restrictions from outside watering with the odd even numbers for the street, but we'll, I guess, reassess that when we set the rates next time. You think by then, next year, whatever scenario is going to be resolved by then or no?
Yeah, there's a process we have to go through, and I'm not sure every detail of that process. So
As long as you seem to be up to date on it, so it seems like things are going in the right direction. And then I would just like to add at the end, the best way to still conserve water is have the smart irrigation thing. You're going to be able to have, when I have my sprinklers on, sometimes they'd only come on once every 3 weeks because it knew the saturation in the ground with the water and all that. That is how you conserve. Not turning on your shower, walking out for 3 days and then coming home, nobody does that because they don't want to pay the rate. Conserving is, you don't want to pay what it currently is going to help you turn down those kind of favors, whatever I'm trying to get. But just lastly, I think the other best way to conserve water in Reading ends up being very simple. You don't drop 1,500 new units on the downtown, which happens to be the same way to reduce our trash tonnage in town. You don't go ahead and drop 1,500 units on the downtown. Our water number is only going up one direction, and we need the rates to go down the other. So I'm good with the second water meter, 1217, the fee that you had, and readdress the restrictions in the future. And that's all I got. So thanks.
Chris or Melissa, I can't see a hand.
Mark?
That was Chris, just in case you were, that was not Mark speaking. So, so a couple things that are really, really important. So again, the reason why our water rates are so high, the biggest factor is the buy-in that we did for MWRA. So there's nothing that's going to change that math until we're finished paying off that debt. Second is that a lot of the fluctuation that we have in kind of surplus versus deficit is a function of how much rain we get and how much people want to use outside watering as a result. So anything going on here doesn't really impact that. That's a separate topic completely. Third is that I appreciate, water is a very precious commodity. Just because right now there is more is wonderful. It's not something to squander. And encouraging more usage is not the right direction to go, no matter what. And I would have a problem with any rate that kind of had any semblance of saying, yeah, it's okay, go ahead. I think that's the wrong direction for the community. The other thing that I think is really important here is, regardless of the cars or whatever, if we do this, there's $600-something thousand of cost that the rest of the ratepayers in the town are going to have to cover. And unless you use a high enough rate on the second meter, it's going to be a recurring issue and problem. And I don't think we want to walk into that. It's not fair to the other residents of this community. So I think as I look at what other people do, some of them take the highest tier, and that seems to be pretty straightforward. Others take a factor on top of the highest tier. And I think that's the range that we have to be in. It's somewhere between tier 4 and something maybe something larger than tier 4. I look at it, Newton, just as an example, they've got 4 tiers in place, and they've got a higher second meter rate. Really, the only one that doesn't is Brookline, which is kind of interesting. I don't know what their break is between tier 1 and tier 2. I just think that if we start encouraging more water consumption per household, if you use more water, I'm going to go out on a limb, even with somewhat reduced rate, you will end up having a higher bill. It might be at a lower rate per unit, but it doesn't make your bill go down in total. And that's what we're paying, is the bill. So I want to be very careful here. I want to be mindful. I want to make sure that we do this, as we talked about, as a pilot program, and just that. With the promise only of, we'll see what happens and see how it works and see where we take things from there. I think that the notion of $100 application fee makes sense. A penalty for not canceling an appointment, consistent with other town departments, makes sense. A high tamper fee, $300, if you guys think that's the right fee, that's fine with me. I think that's great. But I think that we need to send this message, if you will, is, hey, ratepayers in town, there's this change that we're proposing is going to have an impact. It's going to raise your bill unless we do something with the water rate that kind of, to some extent, covers a piece of it. These folks are going to have the advantage of not paying sewer at all. So right now, in some sense, they probably view it as I pay twice this rate. So, and if they're in tier 4, they're paying $12.97 times 2, roughly $26. So, anything, at least $12.97, higher than $12.97. I think those are the right kinds of numbers. That's the only way we're going to not increase the rates to other ratepayers by making this kind of a change, even on a pilot basis. So I think I would, kind of the minimum level for me is kind of our highest tier. And I think more preferred would be something on top of that, something that would I'm not talking about doubling it, obviously, but something it's higher, maybe it's in the $15 range for what goes through the second meter. That's it.
Melissa? Thanks, Melissa?
So I disagree. I think in looking at the stuff that I've researched on my own, the stuff Paul brought to us, listening to the water rate scenario presentations we've had over the last meetings, if the MWRA needed towns to restrict water, they would tell us. They would have no problem with that, and there is no restrictions with MWRA. We didn't know about our restrictions with Mass DEP until just now, so that makes sense why Reading has a restriction. But no other MWRA community that is just MWRA has any water restrictions. Using more water, it is now clear that if we use more water, that will lower our rates. Yes, it could increase an individual's bill if they choose to use more water, but that is on them. We can lower the rates as a board, or as a, as a board, but if a person decides to use more water, whether it's sprinklers or house usage, whatever, that's on them. But it's our job to lower the rates, that's our job. It's not an advantage for the people that won't be paying sewer because they've been paying sewer for a service they weren't using for many years now, so I don't think that's an advantage at all. The other thing that I think is interesting is that I believe it's a recommendation by MWRA, I'm not 100%, that we have 10 to 30% of reserves. In our sewer right now, we have 90%. We have 90% of money in our reserves. That's
Sewer.
huge.
Sewer, not water.
No, I said sewer, yeah, 100% sewer, but and in our water, again, the recommendation is 10 to 30%, we have 50%, I believe, in our water. So we are already reserving, or we already have a large sum in our reserves over what is even recommended by MWRA. When it comes to these, I like the 1217 number for the second water meter. Again, if there's a penalty charge for, not canceling an appointment, as long as it's being done by other town building department, I'm okay with that. And definitely have a tamper fee and a fine for that. So that's my opinion.
Thanks, Karen?
Thank you. Excuse me. Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here. I'm not a fan of this pilot. I'm really concerned when I sit here and I hear board members saying that people shouldn't pay for services they aren't using. And following that logic, I no longer have children in the school, so we need a new tax rate so that I don't have to pay for the schools. And that's completely absurd, and yet that is what certain select board members are trying to convince us is the right thing to do. So that's a huge problem. The other logical fallacy is that opening our water spigots is gonna make our water bills go down because the rates are a factor in individual water bills. So the emphasis on rates is to make sure that we are being equitable in how we share the community costs of our water and sewer infrastructure, much like we share the costs of our road infrastructure, our municipal buildings infrastructure, our educational infrastructure. Mark mentioned a $600,000 deficit figure. I'm going to assume that was based on a maximum participation of the pilot program. I will not vote for any rates that cause a deficit in our sewer reserves that need to, our sewer revenue that will be shifted onto other residents. I will not vote for any policies that take a small number of residents and give them a bonus and make everyone else shoulder the cost. Water is a precious resource. It is a basic commodity and a fact of life that you can't live without it. So this is just, this whole discussion is incredibly frustrating to me that we've spent so much time and energy for something that could potentially, this pilot could potentially be appealing to, less than 2% of the population of Reading, and yet could shift hundreds of thousands of dollars onto families and seniors' water bills. So I'm having a whole problem with this pilot program. I am not a fan. So as far as the rate, which is one of the questions we need to answer tonight, then we need to put in place a rate that minimizes the shift that the rest of the ratepayers need to pay. And if that's $15, then that's where we need to go. And that rate will also encourage those participants to make sure that their systems are up and running and they're not watering the sidewalk and they're not watering their lawns on rainy days. Because conservation doesn't go away because the Quabbin Reservoir is currently at 85%. We're gonna have dry years, we're gonna have wet years, and Reading will make individual decisions based on the kind of year that we're having, as will every other community in terms of water restrictions. So I would like to add to the decisions that the select board need to make tonight is how long is this pilot gonna last? I know we talked about that at a previous meeting and I don't see it on the slide, so that's missing. We need to put it there. And, you know, I would ask this board to think about how are we gonna judge success? And I don't know what the answer to that is, but it will absolutely not be a success if we are subsidizing folks so that they can have green lawns, because people are important and families are important, and frankly, green lawns aren't important. If we lived in California, we'd be ripping out our lawns and putting in rocks, okay? And so we're not there yet, but MWRA is going to continue to sign up communities, and we have to be very careful not to be short-sighted and just encourage everyone to use as much water as they want, because it's bad policy and I don't want to be a part of it. So I think those are my thoughts on the subject. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, could I just comment on something that Karen said for a minute?
Sure.
Karen made a point about increasing the water rates. Just so everyone's clear, increasing the water rates is not going to have any effect on the sewer deficit because you can't use water revenues to pay sewer at present.
Thanks, Chris.
Carlo, can I just comment for 1 sec just on that specific comment? So the reality is that we have to decide what rates both for water and for sewer. And we've made decisions to kind of minimize impact where we could. So in the past, it's kind of been sewer has been the opportunity. The deficit is going to force us to, well, it's going to force a higher water rate, period, for everybody else. So I think what we're coming to is.
What he's saying is it can't force a higher water rate.
It's going to force us to higher
It
sewer
would
rate.
higher sewer rate. Because you can't, that money can't be used.
Because we still have to pay the
Okay,
same
yeah,
amount
I
of
know.
the rate for
So-
sewer, but.
So
we can-
folks who aren't participating in this program, their sewer rate's gonna go up to cover the $600,000.
Well, everyone's sewer rate's going to have to go.
But folks who are gonna have the advantage of this will have their sewer part disappear on this portion, on the 600 meter.
Yes.
The 600 grand mentioned at our last meeting, not our last, but you know, the meeting that we had. I take issue with that after sitting down after the fact and reviewing the data that we had. It's not 600,000. It sounds horrible and doom and gloom when you hear 600,000, but it's going to be nowhere close to $600,000 for the sewer rate. I have other comments, but that was just tied into this $600,000 scenario.
Melissa?
And just on that point too, I'll go back and say, I don't think we should have 90% in reserves. I think that also changed that too. When the recommendation is 10 to 30%, we have 90%. Sorry, just on that comment.
All right, I'll give my 2 cents, and I know we're all trying to be nice, but the comment that Karen made about not having kids in the school, why should families pay for a senior center? There's no argument there. We're all taxpayers. We choose to live here. We know what we have. We know the services we get, and we always have to pay it forward. So that analogy, you know, in my opinion, was not a good one because, you know, how many young families do we have in town, and now they might get, their taxes are going to go up to, but that's what we should do as a community. is we should support each other at all ages. But as far as the different things we have to vote on, it's not a big deal, but I was gonna propose a $75 application fee, just because the homeowner is gonna incur a lot of cost anyway. I'm not gonna, fight big on that one, but I'd like to see that $75. Tamper fee, 100%. Canceling an appointment after we show up, okay, at the discretion is kind of vague, but I'm hoping the town will do the right thing if, notice is given and they don't show up at the door. But if, there's a family emergency, someone got sick, I know those will be considered. As far as the rates, this is a big one. I looked at the chart, and there's some that are similar, there's some that are different, there's some that are higher. So I like the idea of doing an average, and I don't have a calculator, I don't know if that's where the 1217 came from, but just by looking at the numbers, that seems where it's come from for our rates. So I don't want to take this advantage and start gouging as we're doing something new. And no one's really discussed, yes, we talked about 400 initially, and now there's several months have gone by, and we have a lot more information in front of us. I'd like to make it open to anyone, not just the 400, and there's gonna be a process, and we can only get to so many homes per watering season. So even if 20% of the population applied on the homes, they would not get it this first watering season because the manpower is not there. But if we're gonna do this, let's make it available to the whole town. So for me, $75 application fee, $12.17 for the rate. I'm okay with the building department policy that they go through now for appointments. Tamper fees, $300. I'd like to see this open to anyone that wants one. And to address Karen's comments, yes, we did discuss, because of the pilots in there, how long do we do this? And I think for the costs that these homeowners are gonna incur, I don't want a future board in 2 years to say, okay, even if the data proves that our water rates have come down, you know what, some board says, we're gonna just get rid of this program altogether. I'd like to see it at least 5 years. I don't know what the payout is for several $1,000s. Chris said the math doesn't work for him. I'm not gonna do it. I don't have any grass, so it's an easy decision for me. Everyone's gonna make their own individual decision.
Do it.
But for a $12 water that we're charging $4 for, that's a pretty good deal. I wish I was in the water business. But that's where I am on those points, and with the caveat that it's open to anybody. And if you want to cap it to 1,000, I don't know how many you can handle. Chris, how many think you think we could handle per season on appointments and inspections and roughly?
Our water supervisor said probably up to maybe 5 per day, 20 per week. So what does that math come out to? 1,000
per
Yeah,
year,
yeah.
if it's a real year.
Yeah, over the course of a whole year.
Yeah.
Yeah, but everyone's gonna wanna do it, people who are gonna apply this program are gonna apply as soon as it's available on open.gov and get ready for the upcoming watering season. And the people who are, the second 500 will be the next watering season, so, but I don't know if we, I don't really wanna put a restriction on the years, because I guess any board can do whatever they want. This is a policy. It's not a bylaw. This is not going to town meeting. So I'd like to see this seen through for several years to see where we end up, but no less than 5 years for people spending several $1,000s, and then it gets taken away from them. If you have a second water meter, you're choosing to pay more. And maybe people who don't have irrigation systems will install irrigation systems and will make more money on that. So I know a lot of people do have irrigation systems in town, and there's a lot of new homes being built. So there's always opportunities there. I see Karen has her hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our agenda tonight is to discuss and vote a pilot program, so I don't know, I hope you're talking hypothetically about opening this up, because we can't do that tonight. That is not on the agenda.
Well, we can change the number. We don't have to make it 400. The agenda doesn't say 400 meter pilot program, it says second meter and pilot program. That's all. Anyone else in the room?
Mark has.
Yeah, hello. So, folks, I'm a little disappointed here. We did talk about a pilot program. We did talk about 400 units. And I think a proposal that we're hearing now is not really pilot, not really 400. So to me, that's kind of against what we talked about. So I'm kind of pretty disappointed by that. The notion of just kind of letting things go wide open is basically saying all the conservation efforts we've made out the window. It's time, whatever, see what happens. The point of doing a pilot was to kind of understand what happens and react based on that. And the bigger you make the pilot, the harder it becomes to kind of really have it as a pilot. Because now you say, well, now there's so many people who have it, you can't change. So I disappointed is the word I'm going to use. Second, as it relates to using reserve funds, the reality that we as a board face each year is we try to mitigate the rate increases that the MWRA hands us. And we've done it by using reserves, and we purposefully kept the reserves quite high because we want to have that flexibility. We could do a one-time adjustment and really lower the rate. The problem is that every year going forward after that, MWRA says you're up 15%. That's what the ratepayers are going to see. We've done a really good job buffering it for the last 5, 6, 7 years at least. So I think we manage that carefully and purposefully. There isn't a panacea here. That's a decision that we've made to make sure that we can have a rate adjustment. Without a buffer, you can't. We also have had situations where Walker's Brook or whatever, the road explodes, and we get to deal with it. And that's one of the reasons why you have reserves. Our stuff is old, right, Chris?
Yep, very old.
It's going to happen elsewhere because it's worn out.
1890 water system.
1891. It's been really great stuff. It's wearing out. It's going to happen. We can spend our reserves and not have anything to cover it. I would not advocate that we do that. So I'm really uncomfortable changing the stuff that we talked about here a little bit. There are, other than Brookline, no communities have any rate lower of the ones listed here than their highest tier, and many of them have higher. So the notion of trying to find something in the middle is, we'd be once again a trendsetter or a pioneer in the wrong direction though. I really think it's bad road. We don't want to go there. We're reversing so many things we've done so well for so long. We just need to be really careful.
Melissa has her hand up, and then I have a
Oh,
question.
go ahead, guys, sorry. I'm looking at the chart.
Yeah, no worries.
I agree that Brookline is the one, or whoever
Brookline.
Stoneham.
Stoneham is the other one.
The only one that has the same rate, but their rates in general are much lower than ours. And the question I have that you mentioned, and I don't know who can answer this question, is that you said that in the years, we take our reserves to mitigate the cost onto the residents of what the increase is of the water or sewer bill. But so MWRA charges us $3.83. And we charge $11, $15, $12, $14, $12.45, $12.97. So I'm just curious of what we're mitigating, because are they going up $1 a year? Like, I don't see that our reserves, considering the amount of reserve we have, I'm not sure what we're really mitigating.
I don't think Sharon's on.
Yeah.
It's okay, it's just throwing that out there. And then the other thing is, I totally agree with, the situations with the water pipes, and we do want reserves for those situations because they're gonna happen, right? So I agree with, we need to keep a healthy reserve. I'm not saying drain the banks, but I mean, I think that we've done a really good job of being over and above. And I think, especially with the sewer, that we could, you know, offset some of the costs that we might see. The other question was, I thought we were gonna have, I'm not sure who gave us the number of that 600.
Matt Abraham.
I thought Matt was gonna come back to us with like really looking at that a little differently.
So, we have a meeting with Matt on Thursday.
Okay.
We have a call with him. He sent us some information on, some other information about like which number of users are in each tier. And most users, it's like 70, almost 80, about 80% are in tier 1 and tier 2, with 55% of residential users in tier 2. So most people fall in tier 2 or lower.
Got it.
I mean, like 5% are in tier 4. With regard, so we're meeting with him on Thursday so we can get more information, particularly on how water rate structures are, because we're getting into a much deeper conversation that's handled by the board separately. We understand that the issues are intertwined.
Yeah.
With regard to, yes, we do use reserves to help support the rate. We also, our sewer rates and our water rates, the enterprise funds budgets include salaries of staff that are attributed to those budgets, fleet costs, you know, so equipment, debt that we carry. We make great use of MWRA 0% loans that they give to communities, and we use those to keep updating our water mains and our sewer system, so that we don't have expensive breaks. We have a very progressive and strong maintenance program that is managed by the DPW, and engineering does a tremendous job of trying to address those issues before they come up. Like, for example, a lot of work was done in the downtown recently so that on all of our utilities, intentionally, so we don't have to open that road again for that work for hopefully 20 years. So that was disruptive, but then and so that happens all over town as we go to address problem areas. But as Mr. Cole has said, our system is old and you get surprises like the Walker's Brook location. But we do use reserves to help balance those rates. So our CFO is excellent at how she recommends to the board with the help of Mr. Abrahams to recommend rates, and there's a lot of detail that goes in that, and I would not want to speak for her or speculate. To a point that you made earlier vis-a-vis other reserves in the sewer enterprise fund, as was reported in May of this year, it's 99% is the reserve, it's $7.3 million. Also to reference Mr. Haley's comments regarding Mr. Abraham's estimated $641,000. That was high, and I think Chris can speak a little bit to how he would revise that, because we went back to him and said we feel this is, and the board's reaction was, you know, we think this is high. His initial logic model was if we took the 400 highest water users and we assumed that the highest users got a second meter, the worst case scenario would be this much. And so I don't know, Chris, if you can add to that.
I think you were just going to try to take a look at a little closer look at what more the average user was and try to come up with a.
That's right. Yeah, the average. So we don't know who will want to sign on to this program or make this investment. So all we can do is sort of run through some scenarios and have a sense of what that would be. And then to speak to a little bit of process with OpenGov, if the number of the pilot is 400, people can go on, they can hire their plumber can start their process, and then once you get to 400 applications, OpenGov will stop accepting applications. It won't be available anymore. So the system will manage itself, and then DPW, as they go through the process, will be able to, you know, manage those installations and so forth. So I kind of tried to answer a few questions that had come up.
I have a question for Chris, that's okay.
Me or the other one?
Which Chris?
No, Chris Cole, sorry. I'm asking permission for myself. I was reading all the guidelines, and I saw a reference to lead pipe. And I imagine we still have some lead pipes.
We do.
In our town.
We do.
And it mentioned that the whole cost is borne upon the homeowner. What if the lead pipe extends into the connection? Is that different?
Well, I don't think, Carlo, it was lead pipe, it said it mentioned iron pipe.
Sorry,
I think it mentioned iron pipe in the policy, and,
was it iron? I could have sworn it was lead.
I believe, I'm pretty sure it said iron.
Ductile iron.
That's a
Ductile
fine.
iron.
But either way, typically, if it was internal plumbing, the property owner would be responsible for having the plumber replace it.
Yeah.
But as far as like
Sure.
the water service goes, the homeowner would still pay to have that replaced, but Public Works does the work, and we have a set rate right now of like $24 per foot. That includes all materials and labor to replace that service, so. But the property owner would still pay to have the service replaced if it had to be.
You're right, iron, my apologies, iron pipe, sorry. Okay. I take that back. And your explanation makes sense, okay, alright, I take that back. And I just want to address what, Mark's comment on disappointment, and I totally get it. But we have a lot more information now than when we started this, and I'm not trying to, do a bait and switch here, I truly am not. But we have a lot more information now than we did when we first started talking about this many, many months ago. And I'm just one of 5, I'm just throwing that out there. We have the 150 that we have to mail letters to. So it might not be 400 new people. So, maybe I took it to the extreme by opening it to everybody. But we've been really, really restrictive for a long time. And I think, in this particular case, we need to be less restrictive and let people who want it apply. So yes, I have changed my tune a little bit, but it's because I have more information. And when I didn't have more information, I was nervous about how we would handle it. But after, getting what Chris Cole just said, and I got that information at a private meeting about the, so many per week. So that's why I've changed my tune. It's not to throw you guys a curveball. It's because I have a lot more information, and I'm not trying to make this more challenging than it is. I just think I want to be fair as to many residents that want it. Maybe 200 want it. I have no idea. I really don't. I've had a few people reach out to me, when can we sign up for this? I'm like, stay tuned, but it hasn't been 100 people, I'll tell you that. It's been a handful. Now there are other board members have encountered who's reached out to them, when can we do this? So that's why I said what I said. It wasn't to change something at the last minute, but just to get you where I'm thinking. I think we should expand this a little bit. Thanks.
So I just had a follow-up, Carlo, if I could.
Yeah.
I mentioned I want to sell $12 water to everybody. I understand, I think the happy medium between Mark and your scenario is maybe we just do 400 per calendar year or something like that initially. I think that it's still within the spirit. As you saw, they can do 1,000. We're going to do 400 per calendar year or per, June to June, whatever we want to hash out. I think would be, to see how it would go. I also think that I understand that all 5 of us could get replaced next year and someone could scrap this entire thing. I'm well aware of that. I think in the spirit of things, I would like to see it continue at least till the MWRA buy-in's over, which is 3 years or whatever. I'd like to see 5, but I think, seeing where that is at that time and seeing what number we're at, I think would be fair. The other point is, Mark had brought up, if MWRA goes up 15% or whatever, then, our whole thing's going up, et cetera. But to Melissa's semi-point is 15% on 386 or whatever our rate is like negligible in $12 water land. I think the biggest thing that is being missed here is, yes, we cannot change the sewer rate like I said, sewer people shouldn't get charged because they weren't using sewer to begin with, but we can't change the sewer rate. But what's gonna happen is your overall bill, which is water and sewer, is going to go down with the more water that's being used. I understand you don't want more water being used. I'm the opposite. I want our rates to come down for everybody, and the only way that that happens is using more water. So our buy-in for this year is what, 5.5 million or something? What is, something like that? To
Something like that.
MWRA, it was like
Can't remember off
5.5
the top of my
million.
head. Yeah, something.
Or
6
6 million.
million.
Either way, if Reading used, if everybody got second meters and everyone just started watering lawns and everything was great, we used $10 million, we now have a $4 million surplus that will then be applied to reduce the rate for everybody, which when you reduce the rate for everybody, it's gonna lower your overall bill. That's all I care about. If I get a water bill for $400, I don't care if 395 of it was sewer and the other $5 is water. As long as my overall bill is down, then I'm good. And the way that it's gonna go down is using more water. I guess I don't see how, like, I know it's gonna be lost on people. I know it's gonna be harped that the Reading Select Board just raised everyone's water rates. What's going to happen, as I just said, the more water we use, it's going to lower the overall rate. So you're gonna just see this flash in a pan number and think, I'm screwed, when in actuality, you're not going to be. Your number is gonna go down year over year over year, the more people that do this. It's very simple. $12 water, when we're paying $4, you will never lose. Like, I can't stress that enough. Sell $12 water to everybody in the town. Like, you're buying it for $4. I mean, it just seems like a no-brainer to me. I don't know how Stoneham is still doing $6.95 in Belmont, and they don't even have tiers. Isn't this a state, they're violating state law? They apparently can do it, we're good. I just struggle with the fact that MWRA's report told us 2045 we're good, you can add on all this stuff, drought, all these things, and we're just like, we know better than you still. No, they're the ones that are telling us. I didn't make these numbers up and data up. They're the people that are doing it. And I guess the only other qualm that Carlo had, reducing it to 75, I'm still good with 100. Listen, you gotta buy in for this. It's a little bit more to make up the money. We're not even factoring that into our equations. We don't know how much money it's gonna be. So I'm good with keeping it the 100, the 1217, 400 per calendar year as a pilot program. And we can put some fake number of 3 to 5 years, but next year, the whole thing can get scrapped. I would just like to see it at least be in for 3 years is my sentiment, just to see if truly the rates come down. Because in my opinion, they are going to. Not to $7, absolutely not, but if even it comes down $1 from the scenarios, we've been going up, up, and up. Like, what is the downside? Why do we not want to pay less? Just buy more water. And that's all I got. Hopefully for it. And Mark has his hand. Yes, Mark.
Yeah.
Mark's hand up.
Hello. So a few things. The big decision I think that we're gonna be called on to make, it relates to the rate that we're gonna set for second meters, assuming second meters goes through. Everybody, exception of Brookline of the list on here, MWRA communities, all use at least their highest tier. If they have, well, they have one tier, it is the highest tier. So, you know, if in their wisdom they figured out this magic that you use more water and your rate goes down, if that were true, why do they still charge more for the second meter? So there's something, I'm not comfortable with the notion that use more, you save money. The world doesn't work that way. And I see the rate structure they use, and I agree it's cockamamie. However, if you decide you're going to use more water, you will pay more dollars in the end of the day, period. Even with a lower rate, you'll pay more dollars. I don't want to pay more dollars, right? And that's the decision that I get to make. But I don't want to also pay more dollars for the benefit of other parts of the community that do want to do it. Whether the number is 600,000 or 300,000 or something in between, who knows what it is, there's an impact, there's less revenue coming in because we're not collecting sewer from these folks. So the question is, why can't the second meter rate be something of a compromise between the complete loss of the sewer and something that is either, akin to at least tier 4 or something even just a little bit higher? A number lower, again, no one else does this, even the folks who have a lot of experience, no one else does that. Why would we want to do that? It's not going in the right direction. I did check, so MWRA communities, MWRA guidance, et cetera, there's still 100 communities in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that use water restrictions. And even if they don't have to, they do. And there's a reason behind that. You can look at the list of who they are and it's different things, and it's not all wealthy communities or poor communities, it's a mix of everybody that's decided it's a priority to conserve. And I want to be one of those communities. We have been. We should continue to be. I don't want to make a mistake of just saying, just go for it, folks. So I'm not comfortable with anything below tier 4 rate. And I think, again, that's the biggest decision. I think, the things you put together, Chris, all make sense in terms of structure. But the rate is where I think we got to land tonight.
Okay, has anyone, thank you, Mark, has anyone, we've had this for a half hour now or so, has anyone changed their tune on the rate?
No, I'm still fine with the 1217. Like, even like Mark mentioned, it's instead of 600,000, it's 300,000. Where do we make up that number? It's very simple. We sold more water. That makes up the 300,000, and your overall bill is now the same as it was before. And you go over the 300,000, and then you end up winning. Like, you got to take it as an overall bill. It's that simple. If my overall bill can go down, I'm good. And 1217 is still higher than 385, and it's in the middle of these tiers. You can't charge someone higher tier water when they're not in that tier to begin with. Like,
Even though everybody else does.
other than Stoneham.
I just had a couple questions or comments. One, in the OpenGov or at some point, I think we really need to let residents know that this is technically a pilot program before they go ahead and spend thousands of dollars to do this. I don't want to see the second water meter program go away, but other boards could take it away. And I think that before we have irate residents at town hall, if it went away, that they need to be made aware that this is technically a pilot program. I think that needs to be spelled out somewhere for residents, just to kind of say, we told you that. The other question I did have, Mark, you said 100 communities in Massachusetts have water restrictions. Are those MWRA communities? No.
Some might be, but there's, as I looked at the list and I compared, let's say, to the ones you have in your list, there was no overlap.
That they're not what
That's
we have here.
when I mentioned my 2022 gerrymandering map.
Yeah.
That's what Mark is now referring to.
Agreed.
We're in the communities that don't have it.
Yeah, my understanding too is that MWRA communities did not have restrictions except Reading, for another reason, which we just found out tonight. So that was just my question. And I'm good with 1217, like I said before.
Am I permitted to speak here?
Carlo, there's a resident that wants to speak, but I don't think you typically let them, but it's up to you.
No, not at this point, no, we're too deep in, thank you. Karen, do you have any comments on the rate?
Sorry, this rate needs to be high enough so that we are not shifting sewer costs onto the rest of the folks who do not have sprinkler systems.
What is the number?
15. I don't know what the number is. I don't think we have that information. I understand we have another meeting with our consultant coming up, so I don't really think we have that number. Because if we think 625,000 was too high, and we'd like to ask our consultant to sharpen the pencil and give us a better number, then maybe we could figure out what the rate would be, but we don't know what the rate, I don't think we have enough information to set a rates.
What were you basing 15 on? I'm just curious. Just picking a high number?
I don't know what the rate needs to be. We need to pick a number that is high enough to offset the shift onto other ratepayers. We're not gonna subsidize, I'm not gonna vote for a policy so that it can subsidize someone else's green lawn and put extra pressure on a family or a senior or anybody else's water bill.
What about all the people that were subsidizing us already for a long time?
So again, you don't like my analogy that I don't have anybody in the schools, so I shouldn't have to pay for it. It is the same thing. One is a bigger magnitude, I'll give you that. I like to make dramatic examples. It is the same thing. We're members of this community. We have to support our infrastructure. Mark is completely right. We can ask Chris to remind us how many sewer stations still need to be replaced because there's a fair number. And we have miles and miles of infrastructure that is really, really old. And, you know, I believe we did get a mailer about lead pipes. So there are homeowners not only grappling with very high water and sewer rates, bills, let's not talk about rates, let's talk about very high water and sewer bills that also may have to be facing, you know, the cost of remedying lead lines still coming into their homes, which is frustrating. And you know what, we also have asbestos lined sewer pipes. And that's pretty ugly when residents try to hook into that as well. It's very expensive for everybody. So that's why it is so important that any kind of program that, you know, a few residents would like, because you asked the question, how many people are getting calls? Nobody's calling me and asking me for a second meter. Every time the new rates roll around, people are losing their minds over their water and sewer bills being high. But, so that's what I hear, and that's what makes me be so sensitive to not picking a rate that just makes the problem worse. Having a sprinkler system specifically for your lawn for no other reason, not for drinking, not for bathing, not for washing your clothes, not for any kind of hygienic reasons, it's not a need, it's a want. And so you should just pay for what you use. That's all. So I don't know what the number is, honestly. Keeping it in our current tiers is clearly not gonna do it, and we're gonna be making up a deficit and putting it on too many other residents.
Carla, can I just make a point? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, real quick, please.
Sorry, I just wanted to point out that no matter what we make this second water meter rate, it can't offset the sewer. So we can make it $20, but it still can't offset the sewer, and you have to remember that. So you can't make this rate higher and then think that you're gonna then put that money towards the sewer, because that isn't how it works. And the other thing that I wanted to point out is that I think residents, especially those that are in tier 1 and tier 2, would be ecstatic with us if we could lower their rates by using more water. So the people that could use these second meters, or maybe the higher users of tier 3 and tier 4, could potentially lower the rates of people in tier 1 and tier 2 if we as a town were using more water. And I think residents would be ecstatic with that. I'm done, thanks.
I don't think we have motions for this, right, Chris? This is just, we're directing.
I got moved to approve the second water meter pilot program as presented / amended at this point, obviously. So I think, I mean, it's not what I think, it's what you think.
The rate, I think we're all in agreement on the application fee, we're all in agreement on the Tampa fee, we're all in agreement on the cancellation policy that's in place currently. So I think we have to settle on a rate.
It's the rate, and if it's 400 or unlimited or whatever scenario. I think that's the two outstanding issues.
Right, I mean, I like the idea of 400 per year, because this year, it could potentially be, I'm speaking of even 300 new people, and 100 people who already have it, and have to upgrade their system, so there's a cost to them too, for new meters and inspections, not the exact cost, for the plumbing part, but, so there's a cost to everybody that's gonna to take advantage of this, so maybe I'd like to go to 500 for this year, and make it an actual 400 for new people, you know, given the 150, not all people are gonna take part in it. So that would be my, I guess, compromise, to have a 500 pilot for this year. And then if you wanna go back to 400 for future years, but that's I guess a future board's decision. I just hope I know we're in some disagreement here, but I'm hoping overall that this does lower everyone's bill. That is the goal. It's to lower the average bill. Some people are gonna pay more, some people are always gonna pay less that don't have sprinklers. But if we can lower an average bill overall, that is our goal. And using reserves sometimes, I have been very conservative, and Mark and Karen can attest, on our reserves. Bob ingrained, instilled in me having healthy reserves. Is sewer very healthy? Yes. But we have a very old infrastructure, and I was always of the mindset, have very healthy reserves. And I kind of still believe that. So, I think we can be a little bit more, have some more leeway in the future, but I'm in favor of having strong reserves because of breaks, because of the sewer pumps that we have remaining to do, and those are all planned out, but things come up. So that's a side note, but I'm okay with the 1217 to start, to use as an average. And then we're gonna revisit this every year, guys. It's gonna be part of our water rate vote. So let's start somewhere and go from there. I mean, we're all not gonna be here forever. A future board might open up to the whole town. A future board might shut it down. I think 3 years is too little, because that's when the buyout ends. I think we need to go to 5 years, just to have that gap of when it ends, get some relief, and see where this goes. But I'm not gonna make a big stink of it, but I'd like to see it 5 years. I'm okay with 3, but I'd really like to see 5, just to see that relief of when the debt is paid and how this plays out overall, because I think it's gonna be a big benefit to the town overall. So I don't know how you guys feel about that.
I think your date with saying 500 or whatever, like, we have 27 days or 28 days left in the year. I don't see people signing up for that. Is this even good to go? Like, Chris, they could.
Yeah, I mean, we're close with the Open Gov application process. I mean, we could be probably ready within maybe a month or so, I'd say.
We had discussed with IT a target of middle of January to turn it on, make it available, but there's a lot of confidence that they can roll it out probably quicker than that.
So I guess that's what, I don't know how you feel, Carla, with that, is that now we're into January, so now that's tripped over to a new year. So you don't get the 500 plus a 400, you're just getting the 500, technically.
As proposed, it wasn't per year.
You get about 80
yes.
80 people a month
Oh,
if everything goes well 5 days a week, roughly.
I'm just going based off what you proposed, not what was currently presented, like Mark had just mentioned. It was originally 400 and you done so. So I'm just going based off what you proposed.
Right, but don't forget, I'm assuming we're gonna go in order, first come, first serve. So if we did hypothetically open it up to everybody and 1,000 people applied on January 16th, 1,000 people would not be getting second meters. For the full watering season, it just, logistically, it's not possible, manpower wise. They might get in August or September, but then you're not really watering anymore, or you're not watering less. So, yeah, I'm not gonna, we spent a lot of time on this. 400, fine, I'd rather see it 500, but again.
Can the people who were part of the initial program, who already have second water meters, be given priority instead of doing first come, first serve?
Who's speaking? I can't.
That's
Person in the
one
room.
of the residents, Carla.
Oh, yeah, there's no discussion right now, sorry. All right, guys, so it seems like we're on 1217, the majority of us. We're okay with everything else.
Carlo, can I just, I'm sorry to interrupt. Can I just?
Yeah.
What the resident just brought up is actually a pretty valid point. So we have
150, I think.
150-ish residents that at some point already, spent money to put these second water meters in.
Right.
Maybe we do give them some sort of a priority. We can give them a window of time to respond to the letter and then come back to the town. I mean, they've already footed the bill.
That's what we discussed initially.
Okay, I think that's a fair point. They've already footed the
So
bill.
maybe we can have it open for 30 days for double meter people, existing double meter, and then open it up to
Yeah, that's actually a
400 or
you know,
something to be fair.
whenever the letters go out, give them
Yes.
30 days before it goes out to the rest of the town, just so that they can have, first stab at the.
Are you able to restrict that, Chris?
Look, thank you, that was my initial thoughts in the beginning of all this, months ago, that we invested a lot
To
of money.
address this?
Or whoever owned the house at the time invested the money.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah, we'll have to look
a lot
at
of people aren't in those homes anymore. But, yeah, I think they should be given priority, I agree.
I don't disagree. Yeah, I think it's a,
I know, but maybe
it's fair, it's a function of, once you turn something on in OpenGov, then it's
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
And so, we would have to just talk to IT about how to
Yeah,
manage that
We could
process.
monitor that.
Yeah.
I think that's doable, but we'll get some more information, get back to you on it,
Yeah.
but that sounds reasonable to me as well.
Yeah, I think
so.
it's.
Yeah.
Because you have the list of addresses of people that have them, so you can
Yeah.
restrict it for the first month or whatever. Someone could do
Yeah,
something.
hence why I wanted to go to 500. That was kind of my rationale, sorry.
It's still a plumbing permit, so those existing users would have to have a plumber apply for the permit.
Mhm.
But we can talk internally about, what that process would look like. It might be more manual, so it's not opened up.
Yeah, exactly.
And we
Yeah.
do it sort of more
That's
manually.
the way to do it.
We certainly aren't interested in disenfranchising people who have existing systems, but those systems are designed as deduct meters, so it's different. This
Okay.
meter goes in front of the regular meter.
So it's still gonna be a cost to them.
It's still going to be a cost.
Yeah, okay.
Does it have to be
But I
internal
think-
plumbing?
And the
Yeah.
equipment's older as well, so,
Yeah, it won't talk, I don't think those old meters will talk to our current,
yeah.
The 25
the
years
radio
old.
technology is
Right,
different.
yeah, right.
So the transponder would have to be updated too.
So we'll do our best, though, we'll do our best.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah, happy
Sorry,
to
Carla.
prioritize.
No, that makes sense. I don't know how many people are in the room. That's why I didn't want to open it up because I didn't want to make it a free-for-all. So I'm not trying to discount what the resident said, but I can't see who's in the room. So I don't, that's why I didn't want to open it up. So are we good? Can we move on?
So I guess I'm still not sure. So what are you proposing for the schedule, the allowance per thing? 400 a year, 500 a year, the first 150 is excluded, they can get priority? Like that's where
Yeah,
I'm
I
just,
think I like the idea of mailing out a letter, give them 30 days to respond. They don't respond, they go into the queue like everyone else. And I'd like to see 500 based on that. That's just my opinion. It's the will of all of us, I guess, or most of us.
Well, the discussion of X per year was never part of the discussion. That's a new wrinkle. It was 400 people. What we discussed is that, let's see how many applications we get, and we'll decide where to go from there. That's what we had talked about.
Well, yeah, that's why we have a discussion. I'm proposing 500. If I get outvoted, that's fine. I'm just proposing something. I'm not.
Per year or in total?
I like Chris's idea. I think we have to revisit this every year. But I'm worried that if we get 400, 500 applicants and it's a pilot program, a board could just keep it a pilot program and never expand it. I mean, that's a hypothetical, because any board can do whatever they want. But we're trying to, I guess, pave the way for the best case scenario. And I'm not saying I know it, trust me. I'm just trying to think long term, what is the best case scenario? I really don't know. I think if residents want it and want to incur that expense, they should have the right to install it. That's just my opinion. If they don't wanna do it, they don't wanna do it.
Again, what we talked about,
If people wanna do it, we shouldn't restrict them, that's all. Just like, with all these other things that we do in town that people wanna add on to a house or add a deck or whatever. If they wanna do and spend the money and they meet all the requirements, they should be able to do it, no matter how many people apply. Kind of the same thing. They're incurring the expense. And hopefully the benefit of all residents.
I think that again, what I thought we talked about was really make it a pilot. Let's see how it goes. Let's see how many people are interested. Let's see how the installs go. Let's see what starts happening with rates and other activities. And we, the board, could come back and discuss at any time, hey, you got 450 applicants for 400, do you want to change the number? As opposed to kind of saying, no, anybody. I think it's not a pilot when you say that, when it's open for everybody. It's the purpose of the
I
pilot.
just want to take it up a little bit higher. I'm not asking for 1,000, I'm asking for 500, that's all. If we did say 400, it was an arbitrary number. There was no rhyme or reason to it. I could have said 500 or any one of us. 500 makes more sense than 400, but I want to take it up 100, that's all. I think that's not unreasonable. And keep the word pilot in there.
500 one time or 500 per year?
I think it doesn't even matter what we say, because any board can do anything, like Mark said.
I think it just sends, I'm under the notion that if we said for 3 years, for 5 years, it sends a false sense of security that the board is going to keep this for 3 to 5 years. It can be taken out in April. That's the way it goes. So people just have to be aware it's with an asterisk no matter what we do. So if it's 500 or a year
I think it should be, that's fine. Go back to 400 and do 400 a year, and at least, and a minimum of 3 years. I'd really like to see 5. I think that's the right thing to do for these homeowners. It's the right thing to do. 3 years is not a long time. 3 watering seasons is not a long time. 5 makes more sense to me. But
I don't know where we're at now. I still think we're in between the.
Somebody makes a motion and we see where it falls.
So, like Carlo already reiterated, that we're all good on all the fees, etc. We might not agree with the pilot program in general, but the fees and all that, we're all good on. The only thing is the rate and how many units, for the most part. So Mark is saying yes, Melissa's yes, Karen I can't see, she's probably yes, might disagree with the overall program, but at least with these fees and everything. So now we just have to discuss the dollar rate and the frequency. If it's
like Mark said, make a motion, we'll vote on it, and then move on if it doesn't get passed.
so, I guess how would I construct it to be?
Maybe
With the
take
board agreed with all this other stuff. Separate,
think you're gonna-
we do it separate.
I think you have a notion of what people were agreeing on.
So
Put together one
I'll
motion
make-
that has everything in it and we see where the chips fall.
Or I could do 2 that we can, well, no, because you can't do 2 because then it doesn't make sense.
Can we clarify the application fee? Because I think one of you said 100 and one of you said 75.
I was good with the 100. I think Carlo conceded back to the 100.
Okay, all right.
Right?
that's
Am I right? I was.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I'm okay. I'd like to see it lower, but 100's fine.
All right, so let me just get these fees real quick. So, meter cost 400. Meter cost 400. Water connection 100. Plumbing permit 50. $50 for a backflow prevention device.
Tamper fee 300.
Yeah. Tamper fee 300.
Hopefully nobody has to pay that one.
Yes.
Right.
Well, if you tamper, you gotta pay. Tamper fee 300. And then it seems like you're not
Application
gonna,
fee.
application fees, what?
What we just said, 100.
Oh,
100.
that's not under the actual, is it, Chris? So under fees and costs, is that the water connection? Is that the application fee? It's just labeled water connection under fees and costs?
Page,
Yeah, so if you look on page 3 of the actual policy, it says $100 residential water connection.
Okay, so that is, water connection application fee.
Yeah.
Okay, water connection application fee. Okay, so move that the select board set a second water meter pilot program with a water meter cost of $400, a water connection application fee of $100, a plumbing permit of $50 for residential, $50 for a backflow prevention device if needed, a tamper fee of $300, a second water meter rate of $12.17, and up to 500 users per year. I
Second.
think encompasses everything. And
I
then we can
heard
accept
Melissa,
amendments.
I heard Melissa second. Hey, can I make a friendly amendment? And the people who already have second water meters will have a 30-day
Yes.
head start to
Yep.
apply?
Everyone's
Okay,
good with
everybody?
that?
Yep.
Okay, I heard Melissa second. Any discussion? Chris, anyone in the room? Any-
No, we're all good. Like I just, for me anyway, I just want to reiterate that the overall bill is what people have to be looking at if that goes down. You can't look at individuals, household metrics, et cetera. If the overall bill goes down, that is the goal. And it is my belief that that is going to happen if this stays in through year 2, 3, 4 in perpetuity. And if it doesn't, we can adjust it. Thank
Okay, roll call vote. Melissa?
Yes.
Mark?
No.
Chris?
Yes.
Karen?
No, and for the minutes, no, because this policy doesn't encourage conservation, and in fact will increase water and sewer bill amounts for anyone who does not take advantage of this policy.
Okay, and Carlo is a yes. All right, so. Thank you, everybody. That was a very healthy discussion. Let me go back to my agenda. We're up in, fire department surplus. We have everyone, it's in the packet, pretty,
Yeah,
does anyone?
It's in the packet, nobody's here from the fire department, but it's pretty straightforward. The car is beyond its service life, 2009, and so we'd like to have it surplused, and it will be replaced.
Okay, does the board have any discussion? We've done this before, but anyone has any comments, we can discuss it, obviously.
No one here.
Karen, looks like she has her hand up.
All right, Karen?
Just, thank you, Mr. Chair. A quick question, and this vehicle falls under our fuel efficient vehicle policy, so it will be, hybrid or electric?
I assume so, yeah, if it falls under the policy.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Chris, do you have a motion?
Move to declare the fire department's 2009 Ford Escape as surplus.
Second.
All right, Mark is second, roll call vote, Melissa?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Carlo, yes. Thank you. Now we have vote to approve annual liquor licenses. I think these are separate motions from my recall because they're different categories.
Correct.
They're in our packet, and only new one, I think I'm getting to it now. I know Post is new, so that is good. Half and Half, I believe, is new this year.
No.
No.
No, okay. Year 2 then, year 2 maybe.
Yeah, okay.
And I think everything else is the same. So Why don't we just do the
Mark's got a
motion?
question,
You discuss
Carlo.
them.
Before you do the motion, Carlo, for any of these folks, did we have any violations in calendar 24 that we should be aware of?
Good question, thanks, Mark.
None that were reported to us, no.
Okay, we're good. But in terms of alcohol violations, no.
Okay, thanks.
It's a good year. All right, why don't we do the motions, and I'll always ask any discussion so we can get through this.
Yeah, you can get some dinner at this point. So, move to approve the liquor license for the following package stores. Move that the select board renew the all alcohol package store liquor licenses for Nilkant 350 Inc., DBA City Wine and Spirits and Smoke Shop, 345 Main Street, Roshka Inc., DBA Square Liquors, 13 High Street, Jane Ricky Inc., DBA Reading Liquors, 214 Main Street, Anastasia Brookline Inc., DBA Reading Fine Wine and Spirits, 25 Ruckersbrook Drive, Kajal and Kevin LLC, DBA The Liquor Junction, 1 General Way, for a term expiring December 31st, 2025, subject to the following conditions. All bylaws, rules, and regulations of the town of Reading and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts shall be followed and subject to a satisfactory inspection of the establishment by the town manager or his designee.
Second.
Thanks, Melissa. Any discussion? Anything in the room? You guys are really small because I have to on the screen.
Everyone left but Chief Clark and us. So.
I'm not talking about anyone in the room.
I'm just giving you, giving you the law of the land.
All right, so roll call vote. Melissa?
Yes.
What's your name? Mark?
Yes.
I'm going to be going in different order. Sorry. Chris?
Yes.
Karen? Yes. Carlo? Yes.
Next up is move that the select board renew the all alcohol club liquor licenses for Meadowbrook Golf Corp. of Reading, MA, DBA Meadowbrook Golf Club, 292 Grove Street, Home Building Corp., DBA Knights of Columbus, 11 Sanborn Street, for a term expiring December 31st, 2025, subject to the following conditions. All bylaws, rules, and regulations of the town of Reading and of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts shall be followed, and subject to a satisfactory inspection of the establishment by the town manager or his designee. That's it.
Second.
Question, Mr. Chair? Sorry, did I not hear the Veterans Association, or is that a separate
That's a
motion coming?
veterans club, it's
Got it.
separate.
Okay. Fake me out by the list we got. Okay, I'm
All
good.
right, heard the second. Any discussion? Hopefully none. Okay, roll call vote. Melissa?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Karen? Yes. Carlo, yes. Next one, please.
Move that the select board renew the all alcohol veteran club liquor license for Reading Veterans Association Inc., DBA American Legion Post 62 at 37 Ash Street for a term expiring December 31st, 2025, subject to the following conditions. All bylaws, rules, and regulations of the town of Reading and of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts shall be followed and subject to a satisfactory inspection of the establishment by the town manager or his designee.
Second.
Thanks, Melissa. Any discussion? Seeing none. Roll call vote. Melissa?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Karen? Yes. Carlo, yes. Thank you. One more?
Two more, and this one is very long. Move that the select board renew the all alcoholic restaurant liquor licenses for Anthony's Cold Fire Pizza of Reading LLC, DBA Anthony's Cold Fire Pizza, 48 Walkersbrook Drive, Mecom Inc., DBA Cafe Capri, 355 Main Street, CAC Foods Inc., DBA Venetian Moon Restaurant, 680 Main Street, Pepper Dining Inc., DBA is Chili's Grill and Bar at 70 Walkersbrook Drive, HJB Restaurant Company LLC, DBA Fuddruckers, 50 Walkersbrook Drive, Rare Hospitality International Inc., DBA Longhorn Steakhouse, 39 Walkersbrook Drive, Boston Foods Inc., DBA Zucca Italian Restaurant and Bar, 601 Main Street, the Six Incorp., DBA Public Kitchen, 530 Main Street, KOK Inc., DBA Oys, or whatever it is, 26 Walkersburg Drive, Bistro Concepts Inc., DBA Fusilli's Cucina, 107 Main Street, RKR Corporation, DBA Bunratty Tavern, 620 to 622 Main Street, Mandarin Redding Inc., DBA Mandarin Redding Restaurant at 296 Salem Street, Redding Foods LLC, DBA Half and Half at 607 Main Street, Park LLC, DBA Post 1917 at 136 Haven Street, Bertucci's Restaurant Corp., DBA Bertucci's Brick Oven Restaurante at 45 Walkersburg Drive, for a term expiring December 31st, 2025, subject to the following conditions. All bylaws, rules, and regulations of the Town of Reading and of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts shall be followed and subject to a satisfactory inspection of the establishment by the town manager or his designee.
Second, sorry.
Thanks.
Just
Any
quick-
discussion?
Yeah, quick question. Could you read them
Yeah.
again? I'm just kidding. Could you just do a count? I thought I
I
heard
got
16.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and we have one more after this for Bangkok
Okay,
Spice,
15.
separate.
Okay, I'm good, thank you.
All right, so our second, any discussion? None. Roll call vote. Melissa?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Carlo, yes. Okay, one more.
Move that the select board renew the wine and malt restaurant liquor license for Halatat Hadaswan, DBA Bangkok Spice, Thai Restaurant, 76 Haven Street, for a term expiring December 31st, 2025, subject to the following conditions. All bylaws, rules, and regulations of the Town of Reading and of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts shall be followed and subject to a satisfactory inspection of the establishment by the town manager or his designee.
Second.
Thanks, Melissa. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote. Melissa?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Carlo, yes. Thank you. Thanks to all the restaurants and establishments in town. All right, so next we have our VASC policies. And hopefully all got a chance to look at them, and based on, I'm looking at what Ms. Doctor brought up.
That's not, the agenda topic in the vote is based off section 1.5, so I don't think we could have got into it anyway, Carla. But she is correct, but that's not being voted on right now.
Well, it's just 1.5.
It's vote on amendment, section 1.5 of the select board policy, the VASC.
Yeah.
So she referenced, we
Yeah,
can do that at
other
another
items.
time. Yeah.
Okay, so let's do what we have in front of us. Section 1.5, are there any comments or amendments that anyone would like to make?
Oh, I'm sorry, point of information, so do we think that, did you just say that this number 5 where we were talking about the chairs needing advance notice, which I believe they've been getting more advance notice than 5 PM, is that not something we can discuss, or it's just the wrong section?
I didn't get the number when she referenced that.
I would.
That one does fall under 1.5.
Yeah, it
Oh,
does.
it does, okay.
1.5.2, number 5, she said, chairs needing
Okay.
notice by 5 PM day of the meeting. I don't, wherever possible, I don't really think we're doing that in practice, but I don't have a problem striking that. I think her suggestion was excellent. As soon as we know when the meetings are, we'll let them know.
So sorry.
Yeah,
where is
that is,
1.5.2, number 5.
yep,
this?
that is,
David, got it.
kind of makes no sense, right?
Yeah.
So we can amend that. Caitlin, did you get that, what Karen said?
Yeah, so we're just gonna strike that one altogether.
Well, I don't think we should strike it.
No, I just think that we need to take out not later than 5 PM the day of each scheduled VASC meeting, because it doesn't really make sense, considering, I mean, I know everyone's
Some
different.
stuff happens at like 10 in the morning.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Karen and I did a lot of ours during the day, so
Yeah.
it really doesn't make sense.
So what if we made it match when we have to post for the meeting anyway?
Yes, that's
Yeah,
good.
that makes more sense, yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
Whatever, what's that, 48 hours? 72?
I would just say that, issue an email to the board and committee chairs, when the VAST meeting is posted, not later than when the VAST meeting is posted.
Yeah.
That
Is
works.
that okay, Caitlin, you got it?
1.5 point, I'm just trying to find the right number.
1.5.2 and then number 5.
1.5.2 and then number 5, and so we're gonna change it to, no later than the agenda being posted, is that what you said? Or,
Yes.
okay.
Okay. Any other comments on the items that we fixed?
Everyone's good here.
No?
No.
Good, okay, so motion please.
Move to approve the amendments to the select board policy in section 1.5 as amended.
Second.
Melissa second, any discussion? Seeing none, Mark,
Yes.
Melissa,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Carlo, yes, 5-0, thank you. We're almost there, guys, where are we?
Edge sports.
Okay, this is just an update, doesn't say discuss, so we had a meeting, with our OPM, for Recal, myself, Chris from Edge, Jane and Matt, and basically, we, after some discussion, we came to, I'm gonna say agreement, we came to a path of, these would be two separate projects if they both go forward. So it didn't make sense to combine an active living center and a public-private partnership. So I reached out to Carl McFadden as a liaison to the ice arena. And what Edge Sports expressed interest in and will do more research on their end, is a field house behind Burbank on their parking lot. So Edge is gonna look into that feasibility for them financially. Not a sheet of ice, not an aquatic center, but a field house for their own purpose and for the purpose of Reading's youth sports would get some time. So two separate tracks, one will not impact the other. The only comment that Carl said, which you said before, is if you take any of our parking behind there, you have to replace it in kind. And basically, I asked Jane how many spots we're getting at the active living center, and it's 91. So I did ask Carl to have the Reading Ice Arena board kind of vote that they are open to discussions. Obviously, there's no drawings, there's no building yet, but I asked the Reading Ice Arena Authority to at least vote to, play nice and hear things through, and this will not impact the Simon's Way Active Living Project whatsoever. That's gonna move on that track, and then we'll pursue Edge Sports and see where that goes, if it makes sense. That soil was not tested, so that soil will have to be tested if we do move forward. And obviously, leasing and payments to the town, and those are all to be determined. This was just a exploratory meeting to see if Edge Sports was still interested, and they are, and they wouldn't touch the baseball field, just want to make that clear. And we discussed that we would probably issue, and correct me guys, if it's another RFI or an RFP when the time comes, so we're not limiting ourselves just to Edge Sports, if there's anyone else interested. And that's kind of the update, so nothing's disturbing. I active living center project. It was just, to gauge interest, and they seem interested, and we're just gonna keep the dialogue open. And, running Ice Arena through Carl seems to be open to listening, with no decisions obviously being made until something is proposed, so. That's where that stands. If anyone has any questions, I guess I can answer them, or Matt or Jane can answer them, but we're not really discussing this per se. But I guess questions are okay.
I just have one, Carlo, and then Mark. So you mentioned that the Ice Arena wants the parking, but that's, I believe what they referenced before is that they want the parking, but that's for like 2 or 3 events throughout the year. It's not like in perpetuity, they're getting the senior center, the recalc parking that's over there. This is just for like a couple events a year is what they're looking for, that additional parking, correct? Or is it, am I wrong?
Yeah, it's playoff games mostly, big games, North Shore Skating Club performances, and any other big events over there. And I'm hoping I'm not speaking out of turn. Our hockey games are in the evening or on the weekends. And I'm guessing the performances, if anyone knows, are at night and on the weekends, not during the day. So, and Ed Sports did indicate if they did put a building, or were allowed to put a building back there, there still would be some parking. Obviously, that's part of that building. They wouldn't be taking over the whole service, because they probably would need some handicap spots that are really close to the building and some other parking. So, again, it'd be up to the Ice Arena Authority and us amending the lease on what they actually want for parking and what they would allow. Is the active living center parking suffice for their needs? It seems like yes, but I'm not speaking for them, but it seems like yes. But again, I think Jane has the number, or someone had the number for how many spots are there now behind the rink. It's a good number of spots.
According to the plan, it's plus or minus 91. So I've heard 94.
Behind the Ice Arena, sorry, behind the Ice Arena.
Oh, I don't have that number, Carl, in front of me, I'm sorry.
Maybe Carl's lowballed. I think Carl's about 100 and something, but it wasn't an exact number. He was going by rows, how many rows of cars you can get. But that's a future discussion, Chris, but yeah, it's, the Ice Arena does not need that back parking lot, but that back parking lot, don't forget, is also used for baseball and soccer as well, but obviously those are during the day, weekend days.
And then Mark had a question.
Yep.
If our plan is to be issuing an RFI or some other documentation, is it okay to be talking with one party that may be responding to that RFI in advance of issuing it?
I believe the answer is yes. I'll defer to Matt and Jane on that.
Once we,
Procurement.
once we issue the RFI, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, but once we issue the RFI, we would direct all conversation and questions would go to a central resource and so forth. So once that process starts, then they have to ask all questions generally to the procurement officer, so it would go to Ms. Gabriella.
So that's exactly why I'm concerned. Can you provide information to one company not under those rules, and then say to everybody else you have to go under those rules?
Well, we're not in an official process. They were the only respondent to the previous RFI, so I think it's acceptable at this point. We would incorporate all the same information into RFI, so everybody would have the same information.
Could I ask that we check that? It doesn't feel right. It feels like there's an advantage being given.
Okay, sure.
Just
Happy
to, I just don't want to be in a situation where we're going down a process and then somebody else comes back and maybe they don't even want to bid, but they object and they just say, hey, they got an inside track, that's not okay. And then we get into procurement.
Yeah, we could check that. We were saying they were operating under the previous RFI, so that was still okay to have this meeting and conversation. But I think town council's actually on the line, but we'll run it by them if that's what you're saying. Yeah, and we'll do that more formally, not in this meeting, but yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure, yep.
All preliminary, but yes.
Yep.
Happy to.
Karen?
Thank you. So I'm also a liaison to the Burbank Ice Arena, so I would love it if in the future, if you wanted to talk with them, you looped me in, like, that would be great. I'm a little confused as to how we got from, I thought the request at our last meeting was, okay, can I reach out to this company and see if they would be interested in participating in our recalc project? And next thing you know, we're proposing an entirely new building project behind the ice arena. So I'm not sure that this select board, like, said that we should be spending those kind of resources and taking the ball that far down the field. I have some concerns about this. I feel like we have a pretty full plate right now, and we mentioned some other projects that we're working on, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't remember this select board discussing the need to have another building behind the parking lot, or designating you, Carl, to go and initiate conversations with the ice arena designee to talk to the board. And you know, as a rule, we make decisions jointly on these things. So I'm not sure how we got here. What did I misunderstand?
I didn't make any decisions. We agreed at the last meeting or 2 meetings ago that we should reach out to Edge again, because that was part of the Simon's Way Exploratory Committee findings. And I did not make any decisions. We had a conversation. The conversation was focused on, can we do a project that is combined? And after speaking and talking, that is doesn't make any sense, financial sense. So then, because we were all on the call, do you still have interest if Burbank Ice Arena Authority says yes? And so I made a quick phone call. It wasn't a meeting. I made a quick phone call with Carl to gauge his input, and that's where we're at. No decisions were made whatsoever.
No, I understand no decisions were made, except the select board didn't really authorize one of the members to go ahead and pursue yet another project. I think that's kind of where, and I appreciate you clarifying that. I see how you got that. It made a lot of sense. I think we need to be careful that one person doesn't have any more authority to any of the others to, you know, expend resources to start talking with other boards and committees. But I did agree with the rest of the board that it would be okay to check back in those Edge people regarding a project that they had already replied to, not a new project. So I don't really see that conversation needs to continue. Our hands are pretty full. I don't understand why we would need to build something else back there. But I don't want to get us into trouble because it was an update.
All right, we'll do a future agenda item on this topic. This was just an update.
Okay, so can you reassure me that you understand that the board did not authorize any additional discussions on this topic, and we're not going to expend any more administrative resources until, if you want to just have an agenda item and bring up the topic?
Right, that was not discussed at the meeting. It was, we had a meeting to vet something, it got vetted, and then, because we were all there, we had a little bit more discussion. So that was just the update. This agenda item, that's all it was an update. And when I meet with Matt and Jane, if we decide to put it on the agenda, we'll put it on the agenda and have an open discussion. I'm not trying to go behind anyone's back, but I just want to give you a full update. Because if Reading Ice Arena said 100% no, that'd be the end of the discussion. 100%. So
I just think that, like, we just need to be careful. We don't. It's like if I went to RMLD and asked them if they wanted to go buy the church that's for sale. You have to be careful. I'm only one member. I don't know. And I am the liaison to the ice arena as well. So I know you're looking at in the future. I appreciate that.
okay, thanks. All right, we are on to future agenda items. Packet.
Mark's got something, Carla.
Thank you for your help.
Sure.
You know, facilitate.
I know we talked at the last meeting about the Pleasant Street Center and asking the town to give that some thought. I'd like to set an agenda item to talk about it. When do
Yeah.
folks think would be good timing for that?
I'm getting my screen up. We have so this is our only meeting for the month, correct?
The seventh.
well-
Besides the budget meetings that are coming up.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Yeah, I'm going on the 7th now.
The 7th, the 31st.
January.
Not the 31st, the 21st.
21st.
Yeah, January 7th is our next formal meeting of the board. And we could look at the 21st.
Does the 7th work for timing in case there's some follow-up to take forward, or do you think the 21st is better?
Well, we need to add, on the 7th, we need to add, oh, it's on there, sorry, town manager reviews.
I mean, Jenna's already coming in on the 7th as well, so she's half of the scenario, right, that we'd kind of want, other than Chris. So it makes sense for the 7th.
You can take off, I think, the second water meter pilot program, because we dealt with that tonight.
Yep, that's gonna be taken off. The Eagle Scouts shouldn't take that long, I think there's 5 Eagle Scouts. Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with putting the 7th and see what else comes up. I'd like to do the 21st, but I'm okay with the 7th right now. I just, you know.
Yeah, I'd like to make sure there's room so that if there are follow-up items, there's time to do them before we run ourselves up against, believe it or not, town meeting.
Yeah, I gotcha. All right, well, Caitlin, put it in there for the 7th. And then, anyone else in the room that has a
All good.
suggestion?
Nope.
Karen, anything? Next couple of meetings? I have DPW coming in January for a cart update and just like, you know, officially winter then and just give us an update on anything else. And I think going forward, we should have, you know, other departments present and give us updates. So that's a DPW update for January, February. We can pick someone else to give us a quick update. And then, you know, whether it's conservation or, you know, Board of Health. I think Board of Health, we kind of got an update, you know, a little bit last time from the day, but, you know, I'm open to suggestions for who we want to come before us, or is it a board and committee and not a department head? You know, when do we normally do our cultural council update? I forget. On the Money Day Award, when is that?
It's been a while since.
Yeah, and do we do it while they're still accepting?
Yeah, because
requests?
Ryan always advertised that it's open and you're gonna do it by X amount of time. So it's probably 6 months from now.
Back in October to put in applications, so.
It's probably like June-ish or something he came in.
Process now.
I would just say, Carla, that our budget meetings, the next 2 typically is gonna cover a lot of town staff-related stuff. So I don't know if we'd need to get an update from the, say, a day or whatever, when he's probably gonna give us an update tomorrow. or next week.
Right, but I think, yeah, did we do well, I hope we did a cultural council. Don't we usually promote the cultural council and the applications, and then we found out who actually got the awards? Don't we? That's what we do.
That sounds perfect.
Yeah, that's probably February, March when they decide.
Okay, so we can just put that on the radar to see when that should
Yeah,
happen.
I'm sure they'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, and then we'll work on other stuff. Alright. Oh, January, oh god, big one. We need to discuss the kiosks. We wanna do that on the 7th or the 21st?
21st is looking a little lighter right now.
I think, didn't someone just mention January 8th for something, or am I making this up? What did?
What's the date that we chose?
Oh.
Yeah.
We asked them for an update by,
But I thought
January.
Kevin was talking.
Kevin just mentioned January 8th or something. Or why do I?
The only thing January 8th was that's the day you have to do my review by, and you have a meeting on the
That's what
7th,
it
so
is.
that might be what
Yeah.
Sean said.
That's what Sean said,
Oh,
Sean
okay.
said.
All right, yeah.
So that could be it, right?
I'm misconstruing.
So let's put it on the 21st for a,
Okay, parking on the 21st.
I don't know how to word it, but we have to find the right wording for the agenda item. 'cause
Yeah, we can work, we know what you
it's
want
updating
though.
the town and a discussion amongst ourselves.
Yeah.
Oh, and I forgot to mention, my bad, I know it's not really a future agenda item, but maybe it is. Based on Kevin's comments, I think maybe a survey is in order from the business owners
On parking?
About what?
about parking, like really general.
I think we know the results of the
Yeah,
survey.
I
I mean, if we want it in writing,
I
I
don't
guess we
think that
can.
any of that seems to work. They don't seem to respond to it. I'd rather go talk to them in person. I think that's a better approach than a survey.
I think, since this isn't an agenda item, we should make
Yeah,
an agenda item to talk about it.
okay, all right, well,
Yep.
well, I'll take that.
All right.
All right, I think we're good on future agendas for now?
Could I ask one thing, that if for that meeting, is it gonna be the 21st that we just talked about now for that update?
Parking, yeah.
So maybe the town can think about kind of what would be the best way to.
Proceed.
Well, Bridget should give input.
Yeah, Bridget,
We can.
Christina Mendola. Yeah, I think that's what we need. And then it really is coming to us to say, okay, folks.
Yeah.
What do you want to do?
Yeah, we need some updates as far as, violations and
Yep.
enforcement, that would be helpful. Okay, are we on to minutes? We good?
We don't have any.
We don't have
I don't
minutes.
have it, yeah, there wasn't any.
No minute.
Yes, I didn't finish them, sorry.
All right, okay.
Oh, thank
Hold on,
you.
Mike.
Yeah,
Same
perfect,
distance.
got that.
We have the executive sessions.
All right, I got the executive session notice, and then we're not coming back, but I'll mention that.
We're not coming back, correct?
So move to enter executive session under purpose 3 of the open meeting law to discuss strategy with respects to litigation involving, number 1, Davenport versus the Town of Reading, and 2, Town of Reading versus Delphi Construction. As the chair declares that an open session will have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the town in both matters, to invite town council Avery Freed and Ethan Dively, I should have got his name last time correct, but town manager Matthew Cornelis and executive assistant Caitlin Musella into the executive session for all matters, and Chief Clark and Jane
Get out of here.
Really?
Oh. So I got Chief Clark and fill in the blank. So anybody?
I just wasn't sure if
Not
anyone
anybody.
else was coming.
Chief Clark and myself, I don't know.
Chief Clark and Mad Lib? Hangman?
I'll be the acting deputy chief, how about that? We'll do that.
So for all matters, and Chief Clark for Delphi Construction only, and to adjourn from the executive session, not to return to open session.
Second.
Okay, so roll call vote. Melissa,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Carlo, yes. Okay, I guess we gotta have
Yeah, let me clear this.